Hello, and a warm welcome. A warm welcome back to the Albany New Year's Scrabble tournament. My name is Jason Idalski, coming to you from the great state of Michigan. Charles Reinke alongside. Charles has done yeoman's work so far, co-commentating the first 12 rounds of this tournament, and will be doing rounds 13 through 16 this afternoon with me. Charles, what has stood out to you in what you've observed so far?
Oh, we've had really great games, basically every round, 1 through 12. A lot of exciting end games. Thankfully, not too many exciting end games. Have to keep my brain working for at least 4 more games. But if the previous 12 games are anything to go by, these next 4 in this afternoon session are going to be just as awesome.
I hope so. And yeah, I know that your brain is probably a little fried right now, but this is my commentary debut, so I just ask that you bring your consistent A game with me. I'm sure I'll make some mistakes along the way, but it's great to have you alongside.
Yeah, and it's great to have you doing commentary with us. We love having first-time commentators. The more people that can do this job, the less I have to do 16 games in a row.
Well, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be working with you. I know some people in the chat kind of expecting a matchup between Ben Schonbrun and Joshua Castellano. However, we're going to go a slightly different direction. We're going to have Dennis Ikekeregor versus Daniel Blake. Daniel, a very solid 1700s player who is having an amazing tournament so far, 11-1, currently in second place. Now we are doing round robin for the first 19 rounds, so not sure what of that is a product of the field that he has played. But, you know, 2 players I really don't know very much about at all. So looking forward to hopefully continuing our trend of having a good close match.
Yeah, this game should be a good one. We've seen Daniel on stream already a few times. He's played quite well. You can see, obviously, his record indicates that he's playing very well this tournament, winning 4 out of his last 5, including most recently a big win against Austin Shin. Dennis also winning 4 of his last 5, including scoring over 500 in his last 2 games. So both these players running kind of hot right now, and this should be a pretty good matchup.
All right. Well, it looks like both players are waiting for the ready to go. So let's do it and get underway. We have the shaking and the passing of the bag, and here we go.
Well, yeah, it looks like Dennis is going first always. It feels a little bit nicer to go first. He gets first crack at all that good stuff. Dennis does seem to have a little bit of a drawing ritual going on, shaking very thoroughly between each tile. So we've got a little bit of time to kill. I think he's only drawn 3 of his 7. Oh, no. He has drawn all his tiles, and the clock is started.
It looked like he was doing kind of what I do, and that he draws 2 at a time, and then the last one. So.
All right, so looking like a pretty decent start here for Dennis, drawing an S right out of the bag. It's kind of a sigh of relief that even if your tiles the rest of the way aren't that good, at least you got 1 S out of the way.
Yeah, it looks like he has the word Kima, blank. I'm sorry, the K on the double letter. Certainly looks to be the best option that he has.
Yeah, he has max set up, which I think is a slight downgrade. It gets rid of all your high-scoring letters, but doesn't score quite as much. Kima is a nice 32 points, keeping a relatively synergistic C and S together. I think it's the star play here. We have seen Dennis play very quickly in his games, at least his streamed games. So we would not be surprised for him to make a relatively quick play here.
And then he ends up playing mech instead. I really thought he was thinking mech perhaps to set up that S hook on both sides. But decides to go with mech instead. Thoughts on that play? I mean, I don't know if he just didn't see Kima, or if he likes what mech does to the board a little bit better.
I think, I mean, he might have just missed Kima. It's kind of a tough word to see. The letters are in kind of a weird order. This play does something nice for him. It sets up an S hook for him right off the bat. It's kind of aggressively going for a high scoring bingo. So you can't really fault him for that. And now we see Dan rather quickly switching over to the alternate spelling of Kima, which was just missed the previous turn, spelling with a Q. I believe this one is new in Collins 24.
Yeah, it is. It is certainly not one that that I am familiar with. So I believe that is one of the new additions. And yes, I've just confirmed that it is. So yeah, have you seen a lot of these new words being put on the board, or have you seen some misses? Or
We did see an OWO. That was one of the OWO was a new word we saw. And
meanwhile, yeah, Dennis, sorry, with the fairly obvious taking the 64, getting rid of that Z and leaving aside a very promising bingo leave here.
Yeah, I think that was really straightforward as soon as that triple letter became open. I think Dennis might have had a hard decision on that turn, but the decision was made a lot easier for him with that new spot available. So Dennis in a pretty good situation here, just scoring 60 with the Z and drawing adipose as his next letters. But we've got to worry about what Dan's going to do here.
Yeah, one of those. Dan makes a great play. Sorry to interrupt, Charles, but Dan makes a great play, seeing a spot to get rid of that Q with a bunch of vowels, and gets rewarded by unwittingly setting up the Z that his opponent just drew for 60 and drawing more vowels. But as we all know, that is part of the game sometimes. Adipose going in multiple spots. So Dennis will be bingoing next turn, and let's see what Dan is doing here, playing Siri to the triple.
I think that's a really good idea by Dan here. At a deficit, you don't want to let the board get closed off. Something like Raya, R-I-A, making Z-E-A, is sort of like an initial good-looking option. But I think opening up the top of the board with more bingo lanes is a really good idea in Dan's position here.
So as we look at Dennis's bingo options, that R does give him the letter he needs for parodies, but it looks like both of his plays of adipose scores more, decides to take the one hooking mech that will score 81. Or 83, sorry, takes the higher scoring one, the one hooking chemo would have scored 81. Seems pretty straightforward, and poor Daniel has continued with the vowelitis over here.
Yeah, this is a bad situation for Dan here. Really needed. Oh, I think we've got a hold here and possibly a challenge. Or maybe just recounting the score. I see Dan sort of pointing at the board like he's trying to recount the score. Okay, and I think we've got agreement on the score of the bingo. So yeah, hopefully no hold and no challenge on that one. Adipose is high probability. Player of Dan's caliber certainly knows the word. But as I was saying,
it would probably be the S hook to mech, if anything. But
right. But yeah, Dan's in rough shape here. He kept a decent leave last turn of AE. There's a lot of ways that can work out for him, but it certainly did not work out for him here.
Yeah, and a very clever play of rodeo with the OA spelling through the disconnected R and D. That's certainly the star play. I was seeing the Odia dump along the L column there, top right. So interesting to see. He's gone the exchange route, actually. It looks like he is exchanging into AED.
Yeah, actually, an exchange was not on our radar just because he had a few plays that could have been workable, but also a decent idea here just to move on from all of those letters. With letters that bad, it feels like it would be a multi-turn process to try to get back to a spot where you can bingo.
Yeah, and you see the sigh there as he plucks the UV combo out of the bag. Always try to never let your opponent what's going on over there. But after a frustrating start to this game, sometimes it's hard to hide, and it's getting worse as Dennis has drawn both blanks and a very balanced leave, so he has many, many, many options here.
Yeah, this is a turn where I guess I hope that Dennis doesn't spend too much time trying to absolutely maximize the value of his bingo. I think he's got a lot of choices here that are all roughly equivalent. I guess one thing I would be looking at here is trying to hit the Sea of Sirai with anything at all. And just looking at what's available to him there, he only has one bingo that plays from the sea, despite having two blanks and an S. So if he wants to find a bingo there, he might be spending a while.
Yeah, and so what as a very good player yourself, Charles, I feel like I often take way too much time on plays like these, looking for the perfect, most defensive bingo out of the literally 100 or so that are available. So what is your kind of thought process on a turn like this, where you've just had like the dream draw, both blanks, the other 5 tiles very flexible? Are you just kind of I'm just going to take one of the first things I see that looks relatively defensive and high scoring, or do you tend to to kind of methodically go through all the possibilities?
So I think with one blank, I'll generally be somewhat methodical, but with two blanks, being methodical would literally mean me spending 15 minutes on my turn doing a huge amount of iteration, which would be a waste of time when you've only got 25 minutes in a game. So in a turn like this, I'm approaching it as just, where can I score the most points? That's where I'm going to be looking to play first. Defensive considerations are always there, but at this score, I feel like Dennis might just be looking for the highest scoring bingo available, whether it's from the Sea of Sirai, maybe down from the E of Mex. There's no double doubles available. Otherwise, maybe I'd be looking there as well. But I would just spend a couple minutes on it, hopefully find a decent option, and then just play it. Ooh, this is going to be a nice little overlap here.
Yeah, he's gone for the 5 overlap. I'm assuming that this is going to be folates. I'm not sure if there's anything else it can be.
Yeah, I believe you're right. We're going to see a blank designation clam. Ooh. He actually, when I said he only has one bingo starting with a C, I failed to mention he actually does have a bingo ending in a C, and he's switching to that. Looks like he's going to play Felsitic. And if this play comes down, I think either of these plays coming down is bad news for Dan, because he really wants. Oh, he wants Auditive to stay open through the eye, and maybe he'll still get a chance to play it.
He might get it, yeah. This has got to be torture, watching your opponent put down a play that leaves it, then put down the one that blocks it. Now he's back to the one that leaves it, and Dan's just sitting there like, just hit the clock, hit the clock, hit the clock, hit the clock, and
might be switching over to Festals.
Switching to Festals, hooking both of the S's, which looks like it is the highest scoring option.
So nice job by Dennis to actually determine what his highest scoring bingo was. Man, this is getting hard to commentate here, Jason.
I was gonna say, do you think like this is a little bit of like a needle here, to use a poker term, like a little bit of gamesmanship? Like, look, I have both blanks, I have all these options. I'm gonna,
Right. Yeah, there might be a little bit of gamesmanship going on here, but we see Dennis circling the blanks, so this might be his final decision of Folates scoring 88 points.
I like this option, especially because of what it does to the board. It kind of kind of forks it. You can see it kind of resembling that fork shape there. It does not block auditive, but I think it's a very defensive play. and probably, about to take a 200-point lead. I don't know what Sim would say, but I actually think that is probably the best place. But I kind of like the one hooking both the S's with Festals. But I think either of those. I think when you're about to take a 200-point lead, trying to keep the board as closed as possible is probably your best bet.
Yeah, this play is good. It doesn't give a whole lot back, and it also blocks the bingo starting with a C on the top row of the board, which I think might be Dennis's primary consideration at this
Right.
point. The easiest way for Dan to get back in this game is to bingo from that C. That is no longer an option. So Dennis is feeling pretty safe here. Now we really need Dan. Dan really needs to find Auditive here to have, I feel like, any shot in this game. So he hasn't played it yet. That feels like if he had seen it, he probably would have played it by now. So
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit worried.
Yeah, yes, for sure, because it is far and away his best option here. He also hasn't really had it set up on his rack. I think he's had those tiles set up in that order. Again, I don't know how much Dan shuffles his tiles, but
And honestly, at this point, it's gone so badly for Dan up to this point. A little bit of moroseness might have crept in here. It's really hard to stay focused on the game and your tiles
sure.
when you're down by 200 points, only a few turns into the game.
Yeah, you're having, arguably the best tournament of your life. You're 11-1. You're on stream, and then, through no fault of your own, you blink and you're down 200. It's the old Marlon Hill line. When you draw poorly, you begin to play poorly, and I know that I've certainly experienced that. And Dennis playing quickly, keeping the pressure on, taking the points with Jingo, hooking the J to the existing EE, taking a bunch of air out of the bag, blocking one of actually multiple promising bingo lines for Dan there. So seems like a pretty obvious play.
Yeah, I like this play from Dennis. As you say, Jason, it blocks bingo's hooking EE. It also blocks bingo's hooking Kima, either the A in Kima or just hooking an S onto the word Kima. It sort of does a lot of things that Dennis wants to do this turn, and the amount of points he scored for it's not so bad either. We see, going back over to Dan, I'd say he drew awful.
Yes, his tiles are awful, and it looks like his best play is awful off of that GO in Jingo. Also helps open the board up a little bit more, gives him that ag hook as well as floaters down there with the U and L to play through.
I think he might be setting up Waifu on his rack, which is another new CSW24 word, WAIFU. I don't think that would be his best play here. But it is sort of a fun new word if you're an anime fan or just terminally online like some of us are. You might be aware of that word, but it is now available to play in Collins, and it looks like we're going to see it come down. So possibly not his best move, but at least a very creative move, and shows that Dan has been keeping up on the dictionary updates. If nothing else, he's at least aware of the new words, playing Waifu and Kima in the same game.
Dennis very quickly plays Vita, taking that hook to G with the A, stopping any potential overlaps through that R there, and top half of the board, apart from that V and E on the right there, pretty much dead now. So also, taking 5 tiles out of the bag, just ending this game a little bit quicker. And Dan has gone from all vowels at the beginning to all consonants now. So
yeah, I think he almost doesn't have a play here. I think an exchange is probably called for. There's not a lot of open vowels on this board to make this consonant heavy rack actually playable. He could play something like Trilled, Trild, through the eye of Vita, but that's really marginal, scoring 6 points and keeping 3 consonants. I'd be very tempted by an exchange here. This is sort of the downside of a play like Waifu, is that it didn't keep a vowel and kept 3 consonants. So there was a chance that something like this would happen. So kind of went from bad to worse for Dan, as he really doesn't have a good play available.
So as we look at the potential exchanges here, in a situation where you're way behind, sometimes you would like to keep an X on an exchange, but this really isn't a very X-friendly board. And it's also hard to see Dennis doing something that would set up the X for a lot of points. So are you exchanging into an RT here, just trying to get a bingo as quickly as possible, or of the exchanges, which one is your preference?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Jason, that the X doesn't have a lot of future on this board. I mean, you can play the X, but your X plays are only going to score 20 to 30 points, if that. So in the absence of any huge X hotspots, it would make some sense to exchange into TR and just gun for the bingo. We do see Dan, I think he might, maybe rightly, feels that he needs that X for some scoring power, just to stay in this game at all. But down by over 200 points, it's hard to feel like you have any shot in this game at all.
Yeah, and this is a tough spot where I definitely don't feel like I handle it very well in terms of when you start, recognizing that you're in place prize contention, and when you need to start limiting spread versus when you need to start throwing Hail Marys.
And we do have Dennis sitting on some pretty good letters. He actually does have a bingo available through the O of Jingo. He had set up some stuff like Neurosis. If he had an E, it doesn't quite fit on the board, a few other things. If he can find a bingo here, it's already game over for Dan.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way.
Yeah, so yeah, he's spending a little bit of time here. Again, he hasn't played it yet, possibly indicating he has not seen it.
And he hasn't seen it. As we all know, Rosinus, referring to expert Scrabble player Sam Rosen, who is one of my many friends with a Christmas birthday. So if he's watching, belated happy birthday wishes to Sam. But yeah, Dennis takes Saurus, which was probably the best of the non-bingo options, taking both of those S hooks, further constricting the board. All S's and blanks are now gone, all having been drawn and played by Dennis. And again, just and we're actually going to get a challenge on something here.
Yeah, thanks to Art Moore's wordjudge.me and the Genius Challenge Cam, we should be able to see exactly what's being challenged here. Actually, I think our producer might have stepped away briefly, so we might not get a challenge cam. Okay. I wonder if adiposes is what's being challenged here. Just doesn't look like...
Yeah, Kima, I'm assuming that Dan knows takes the S, perhaps Saurus as well.
So we'll just give that one a +5 for the time being. If we receive word that it was a different amount of points on the challenge, we can fix it. But no luck getting that word off the board. A nice play by Dennis to keep things nice and tight. I think Dan is probably almost forced to play something like this. He's got a few other options, but this is a nice looking one.
Yep, opens up the triple, keeps your X to score. It'll probably get blocked, and sure enough, if I am looking at Dennis's rack, very obvious play of inhibits. Again, Dan just continues to play into Dennis's hands. A 3I2N post bingo draw, and he is going to turn that into 36. And again, drawing more tiles out of the bag. And
yeah, Dennis is doing a really good job here of getting this game over quickly. I guess I shouldn't say that, implying that we want to get this game over with because it's a blowout, but just from his point of view, the less time he can give Dan to mount any sort of a comeback, even a partial comeback, is better for Dennis. So he's been playing 4 or 5 or 6 tiles the past couple turns. I'm sure he wants to be able to keep that up for the rest of the game.
yeah, this is almost playing it like a spreadless game. Just trying to end it as fast as possible. I'm sure Dan probably wants this game to be over with, relatively quickly. So.
Yeah, Dan, again, still sitting on the X. Possibly a good idea to keep that X on the exchange just for scoring power in the future. He does have a pretty straightforward play of Ox on top of the I of Inhibit for 36 points. Feels pretty good, doesn't really block anything that's already on the board. So there might still be a little bit of upside in terms of hitting a bingo after a play like Ox. Anything else that you're thinking about here, Jason?
Yeah, there's the very slick helix through the AL in the top right there, hooking the H to make UH, but that is a very tough spot over the board. My first reaction was Ox. If you wanted to, I don't know if it might be a little too cute to play EX. It's going to be a lot easier to bingo to an E than it is to bingo to an O. But yeah, I think just kind of cashing in that X with EX or OX, probably best and probably what we're going to see.
Yeah, you actually make a good point, Jason. It might be worth considering playing EX just to create a new lane for 8-letter words. But at this score and with Dan's letters really not that good, that's kind of a hard play to make. Sometimes it feels like when you make a play like that, your opponent is a lot more likely to hit it than you are, and not just because of the fact that they have the next crack at it. But we do see Dan, I think, with a little bit of a Hail Mary here, and I can't fault his courage in making a spot like this.
Yeah, I think OX is probably correct, but I don't mind this play of EX. Again, gives you another bingo opportunity, and of course he has, as per his usual this game, drawn 2 very unhelpful tiles into that leave. So now Dennis dealing with his 5-vowel rack.
Yeah, I think this will be the first time that we actually see Dennis forced to slow down a little bit. Really, his scoring has been nonstop this game, and he just doesn't really have good scoring options this turn. So,
yeah, very interesting choice to play GANE in that, with all 4 overlaps in that M column over there, leaving 3 vowels.
Yeah, I think part of his thinking here might be that bingos down from the V are, would score a lot if they were played. So might as well block that spot. But yeah, keeping 3 vowels, especially the AOU, they're not especially good vowels. It's not always going to work out for him, but I think realistically, with the score as it is, he doesn't need to worry about being absolutely perfect this game. At this point, he might be just trying to preserve brain energy because there is a large amount of Scrabble left to be played in this tournament.
Yeah, and that's something that I know that you played nationals last year in the Collins division. How much do you think about that in a long tournament, 28 games like this? When you're way ahead, it's like, look, I may lose out on 50 points of spread by playing the rest of this game really fast, but long term, this is gonna benefit me and help me be sharp in rounds 26, 27, 28 when I need to be.
Right, yeah, there's definitely some considerations like that, especially like endgame scenarios where I have the blank, but I'm going to win no matter what I do. I'm not uh, busting my brain trying to find the best
Right.
blank bingo. I'll just see one and play it. Then again, spread is always a consideration in these tournaments. So while there might be some urge to sort of autopilot some turns, at least for me, it's really hard to turn off that instinct that says you should make the best play every turn.
Right. I feel like I'm always like the worst of both worlds, in that I'll like look for like, a few minutes and then like, just give up. It's like the worst of both worlds, where it's like I play the end game I could have played in 2 minutes, but I take like, 8 minutes to do it.
And here we see Dennis, I think, making his best play by a mile, scoring 32 points with Ori, just not letting up at all in this game. So nicely spotted by Dennis, and kind of an odd spot on the board. You wouldn't normally be looking there as sort of a scoring hot spot.
Very nice find there by Dennis. Very nice. I was not looking there at all. So.
Meanwhile, Dan still dealing with, he's alternatively been dealing with too many vowels and too many consonants in this game. Right now it's towards the consonant side, but he is finding his highest scoring play. This is actually highest scoring by a mile. A nice little overlapping play, turning 3 3-letter words into 3 4-letter words, playing dork for 28. So a nice find, and also a little bit of name calling, which maybe feels good for him.
I was going to say, I've been talking way too much, given the speed at which Dennis has played. I'm trying to say something, and Dennis makes his next play before I even get to look at what his options are here.
Yeah, definitely. In the past day and a half, I found it very hard to do commentary for Dennis, because by the time you're done talking about the previous play,
right,
he's already making his own play, and so he kind of evades detection that way. You don't even get to critique him because he's making his plays too fast.
So very bingo prone rack on a board that is very tight here. Looks like the star plays here are playing across row 8 there, either URAEI or AUREI, kind of dumping a bunch of vowels and scoring well.
Yeah, those plays do look nice, making vitae, but they're kind of hard to spot. It's kind of a sneaky spot. You're not thinking necessarily that you can end in a 5-letter word with EI. It's a really tricky spot to look. Then again, Dennis is a very good player, so we wouldn't be surprised at all with whatever he comes up with here.
Yeah, I was going to say, both of those last two turns, the last turn from each player, showing very good board vision and getting a lot of points out of kind of clunky tiles in spots of the board that I confess that I wasn't really looking at candidate plays. So we'll see if that trend continues with Dennis playing across row 8 there, seeing the E hook to Vita. Instead, he decides to play Va off of that V in 5 and kind of set up his R and N there. Looks like he wants one more bingo before he finishes this game off.
Yeah, that's actually a little bit of a surprising play from my point of view. He's got this board, very nicely locked down. He's not really, his leave isn't that close to a bingo. He would need to start with an R or an N on that new spot that he just created. Meanwhile, there's still a lot of stuff in the bag that goes there. We see Dan sitting on 2 N's, an M, a P, and a T. All of those going after the U of Va. It seems, I would say, a little bit unnecessary at this point to open up something for your opponent. But we see Dan does not really have the letters to take full advantage of it. Although I shouldn't say that, Jason, because Dan actually does have a really nice scoring play in that new spot.
Oh yes, the Timpan, Tympan, of course, more known for its A and I back hooks as a 7-letter bingo. So that would be quite the find. And yeah, a very out of character play, I think, for Dennis, especially given how he had played the rest of this game.
Yeah, and I think Nigerian players in general have a reputation, deserved or not deserved, but anyway, the reputation of being defensive players. Dennis has certainly, as you said, Jason, been playing relatively defensively this game and just immediately goes in a completely different direction with Va. And there's a chance that it gets hit back pretty hard, but timpan is a tough word to see. Six-letter words are the last that any expert Scrabble player studies, so maybe not fresh in Dan's mind. And even if you saw it, maybe you think that you're misspelling it. There's a couple different ways to spell
Right.
words that sound like that.
Yeah, and especially being down 250, I would be very impressed if we see timpan hit the board here.
Yeah, in terms of like maybe more reasonable plays that Dan can make, and I think he might be getting ready to put this down.
There you go.
Yep, nicely spotted by Dan, just playing tramp there, keeping two N's and a Y. There's a little bit of synergy in those letters, but mostly he's just liking the 35 points that he scores with this play. And
yeah, so now it looks like we have two unseen tiles. So just trying to figure out, not relevant to the outcome of the game, but still a very interesting pre-end game here. With two in the bag, statically. The play of dumping the O, either hooking it to the hull to make hullo. Neater is a very very good leave. I'm just trying to see like what it would work with the unseen pool. But Dennis has just decided to grab the points with redone and see if he can draw two tiles that allow him to go out next turn.
Yeah, I think wise decision from Dennis here, rather than try to prolong the end game unnecessarily. Just trying to get to the end of this one. He was probably looking at the unseen tiles from his point of view, trying to figure out if Dan had any bingos. Those remaining tiles were really unfriendly looking. We can see Dan's rack just, I shouldn't say nowhere close. If he had an eye available, he could play bandying. But in the absence of that eye, these letters are pretty unflexible. So,
yeah, we were looking at the unseen pool to Dennis last turn, and certainly didn't seem like there were any bingos, off of that U or to that E for sure. So
I see Dan with a little bit of a sad smirk there, like, boy, this really didn't go my way. You can totally feel it. This game really did not go his way, other than possibly missing auditive, which is a tough word to find when you're looking through an eye, or you need to look through an eye on the board. Other than that, I mean, Dan played these turns pretty well.
Yeah, and again, through no fault of his own, again he blinks and he's down 200 points. I mean, would much rather lose a game like that than misplaying an end game or something like that. You play a 28 game tournament. You're going to have some of these. You're going to have some of these, and the healthy thing is just to say, all right, got a bunch of bad luck out of the way in one fell swoop. And just 1 out of 28, and we'll get him the next time. This game has finished pretty quickly, so we'll give Dan a chance to rest up and kind of reset before going into round 14 there.
Yep, and not that it makes the loss any more or less unfair, but Dan has had a very good tournament up to this point. It certainly has to still be feeling very good about being 11-2 after this game. We'd love to be 12-1, but
right.
It's a very good record nonetheless.
And unsurprisingly, Dennis takes his highest scoring spot for Ole.
And yeah, that brings us to an end of a sort of Maybe the first game of this stream, disappointingly, where it was kind of a blowout from start to finish. 507 for Dennis and only 271 for Dan here.
So yeah, as we look at the standings after round 12, again, not updating this last game, but how about the start that Ben Schonbrun's been on? I don't know if he has been on stream yet, but 12-0, no matter how you slice it, is a very impressive start.
Yep, we've seen Ben a couple times on stream, and I think both games he played pretty much perfectly. So he is really on a roll in this tournament. Dan Blake, even though we just saw him lose kind of a tough lopsided one, still right up there, still in the thick of things, approaching the halfway point of this tournament. And of course, a lot of expected names still doing very well in this tournament. So looking forward to a lot more high caliber Scrabble in the coming days.
Yeah, and looking at those standings, very fascinating standings going into this session after round 12, where you have the top three players are all outside of the top 5 seeds, but yet 4 through 8 are the top 5 seeds. So, you're looking at the standings and that you have, 5 world-class players nipping at your heels if you're Ben, Tim, or Dan. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it shakes out the second half of the tournament here.
Yep, and I think that Dan-Dennis game finished relatively quickly. I don't think Dennis really had too much to think about on some of those turns. Certainly a nice game to get back in the swing of things after a lunch break. But I think we're going to be taking a break here while we figure out what we're going to do next. So maybe we do a couple plugs here, Jason, and then let people take a break.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, that game did finish fairly fast. So yeah, just a reminder that today's live stream is brought to you by NASPA Games and by Bob Lynn. Again, you can learn more about NASPA Games and competitive Scrabble at scrabbleplayers.org. And thanks again to Bob Lynn, our Collins Division sponsor, who has provided a bunch of incentives to make it easier for people to try Collins. Also a reminder to visit letsplayscrabble.com to learn more about competitive Scrabble. And of course, if you're enjoying this, liking and subscribing is always helpful.
Yeah, I think you just about covered it. But yeah, again, one more shout out to Bob Lynn for sponsoring a Division II of this Collins field, making it a lot easier for the lower rated Collins players to get some taste of Collins action without having to go up against the likes of Dennis and Dan and all these good players who are so fearsome over the board. But I think with that, we're going to head off to a break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes with more awesome Scrabble action from Albany, New York.
Welcome back to Albany as we get ready to start round 14. I was joking during the break with my colleague Charles there that he talks about how they've had 12 great games on the stream, and then I show up and the first one is a 200-point game in about 5 minutes. So seem to have put my hex on the tournament here. So we'll see if we can't turn that around here as we get ready for round 14. On the stream will be two good friends. Terry Kang and Jason Ubeika, both middle of the pack in the standings right now. So looking to get on a run here to put themselves in contention.
Yeah, these are two players currently sort of treading water, as you said, Jason, in this tournament. Both of them very capable players, capable of going on a run, hoping that they go on a run. And I think for both of them, they're hoping that that run starts right here on stream.
Yeah, as so 28 game tournament, obviously round 14 coming up. This is the equivalent of the halfway point. So not saying that it can't be done. I once started 3-6 in Albany and finished 16-8, and I'm sure that you have stories like that as well. But it's one of those that the losses kind of become a little bit bigger. And if you fall to 6-8, I believe that both players are 6-7, but I may be wrong. You're kind of going to make it pretty difficult on yourself to be where you want to be at the end.
Yeah, for sure, Jason. As the games sort of tick away, it gets harder and harder to make that comeback that you dream of. And so no better time than the present to start working on adding some wins to your record. I think we have standings ready to show everybody out there to see where
so Ben
things stand.
is in fact human. That is good to know. His first loss of the tournament. Joshua Castellano, who obviously everybody expects to be in the mix. Kind of pulls Ben back to the field a little bit. And Tim Weiss winning as well, highest spread in the tournament. So.
Yep, some of the players that started off super hot, maybe coming back down to earth slightly. Ben and Dan still doing quite well, but not as stratospherically awesome as it seemed just a couple rounds ago. And our matchup coming up is right there at the bottom of your screen there. This isn't the bottom of the division. It's about the halfway point of the division. We've got Terry Kang versus Jason Ubeika. I think a very well-matched, evenly matched matchup, and we're excited to see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we will see a good close game, and it sounds like both players are ready. Of course, in a matchup between two friends, we've got laughing and chatting here. Four game winning streak for Juju here, and Terry has won 3 out of the last 5.
Yeah, both players actually doing quite well here to get themselves sort of back in contention as we hit the halfway point. As he said, Jason's just rolling off a 4-game winning streak. We see an update.
Sorry.
We were totally looking at the wrong games.
We were.
Anyway,
well, it's a 2-game winning streak. I was only off by 1. That's not bad.
So Jason is on a 3-game winning streak, and Terry actually doing somewhat poorly in her last 5 games with only 1 win, but still sitting there quite nicely at a pretty good record. So looking forward to getting back on track in this game.
Yeah, don't have her round 13 game with Josh Sokol, but you score 499 and 493 in consecutive games. You're not doing too bad. So I think the players are ready. There we go. And here we go. Terry is going to go first.
Terry's just shaking the bag. So.
Oh, sorry. Just the.
Sort of a formality before all these games, just to make sure that your opponent's not floating the blanks up to the top of the bag. Of course, in this division, we don't really expect anybody to do something like that, but it's really a pleasant formality to make sure there's no hijinks.
If you gave me the name of about 500 Scrabblers that would do that, Ubeika would be 499th, and that's on a bad day for him. Just the nicest person you would ever want to meet. So
Jason.
Yeah, interesting opening rack here. No 5s here, so we'll see among all of his short options which he chooses. Looks like statically FAP, leaving CDIT is the best option. What do you think?
Yeah, this is sort of an interesting turn here, as you mentioned, Jason. No 5-letter words available. There's a couple 4-letter words available, but it's hard to say whether any of them are really worth playing. Something like FAP, anybody who spends enough time on the internet might be familiar with that word. Seems like a pretty decent option here, but I think Jason will spend a little bit of time on this turn just making sure he's not missing anything better. It would be really nice to play a 5-letter word, hitting the F or the P or the C on the double letter. We know up here we've got Quackle. We know that there's no such word available, but Jason will want to spend a little bit of time here to make sure he's not missing something nice.
Yeah, and I was wrong when I said that there are no 5-letter words available. There actually is. He could play dicta, but that would leave his 2 worst tiles in F and P. So he's gone with fact. It'll be interesting to see if that ever gets extended to artifact or what some of the other fact extensions could be.
There's also the nice facta, which it looks like Terry's going to hit right away. So nicely spotted, turning fact into facta while scoring a really nice amount of points here. 30, let's see how much this actually is. 26 points, that is.
Does leave a couple vowels, though. That always makes me a little bit nervous, but...
And I do think she might have played a little bit quickly here because the same word does play underneath fact for 7 more points, making the sort of hard to find CH. So
Yes.
maybe a little bit more time was called for there. And now we're looking at Jason. Drew another vowel, but it's another I. So his only vowels are I's here. That's kind of a gut punch for any Scrabble player. For duplicate I's, especially if you don't have too much else to work with. Jason, are you seeing anything good here? I'm a little bit. These tiles make me sad.
Yeah, I mean he's got some options. Biddies is kind of the best static one, but I like just kind of a dib or bid play atop the FA Infacta. Rips is a really good leave. 12 E's available. Draw one of those E's and you're probably going to be in pretty good shape a lot. Now the board isn't great for bingos after dib, but you do have that nice S hook. To what I like to say B-hang. I don't know how to pronounce it, but you have that nice S hook there. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thought. Jason's going to try to make the S work for him, and that probably means leaving the hangs open for, as long as he feasibly can. It's worth pointing out here that facta does not take an S. That's the plural of factum. And so if you're thinking maybe IES bingos could go to the right of bang, that's actually not going to work. So not a whole lot of stuff going on with the S other than just playing bangs. But yeah, I do like your thought, Jason. Maybe just play short here with bid or dib. Maybe I prefer dibs just a little bit more, but we're seeing maybe a similar idea here, although the downside of this is it does block the S hook.
Yeah, you now have, kind of multiple, hooks if you have end up having a bingo with the S in the middle of the word. But yeah, I don't mind Frib. Again, I think my style is more a dib or bid and leave the P and the R go together really nicely, a lot better than the P and the D. So.
And we did see Terry do a rather quick exchange. I think it was a warranted exchange of AAIIOOQ. Truly awful set of letters. Really don't want to play through that with something like chi next to bang. It's just really not worth it.
Yeah, I was wondering if she might give that a thought, because you do, you're keeping another I next to that Q you're putting next to the double letter. But I think in exchange 7, kind of has to be the right play here. So now Juju with Apsides. Again, like I said, that bingo with the S in the third position now plays in both places, or a couple bingos through the D, Dispaces or Spadices. I'll be curious to see if he sees which of those he sees, and if he ends up playing a bingo on this turn.
Yeah, those are tough words to see. I think all of these available bingos are not straightforward by any means. These are promising looking letters, but playing something like Apsides, you're starting with an AP. That's not a natural way that you would be looking to bingo with these letters. Something like Spadices, the plural of Spadix, I think Spadix. Also not a very natural way to bingo with these letters. This is a tough turn for Jason. I would like to see him spend some time here and make sure that he's, evaluated all his options.
Yeah, and I think he will. Juju is usually a fairly deliberate player, and like these are the kind of turns that when you look back, kind of decide games. I know when I was playing, I felt like if I converted all my bingo racks, didn't have a phony challenged off, and didn't let an opponent's phony stay on, that I was in good shape. So he does not see those words, which is understandable. Instead, takes a pretty nice score with dip. Very nice S hook right there. That'll make his hopefully upcoming bingo a little bit more flexible.
Yeah, I think definitely his thinking there was maintain S hooks on the board. Ideally, you would like one with 7 spaces to the left or on top of it, so you could play a bingo ending in an S. But this is still a good idea to maintain S hooks on the board when you're actually sitting on 2 of them. There might be some upside in the future to just playing off one of the S's and saving one for a future bingo. But over to Terry, her exchange partially worked, I would say. Parts of that exchange were good, but overall, this is kind of an ugly looking set of letters.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's better than what she had before, but that's a pretty low bar here. We talked about that CH potential, and it looks like her best option here, and the one that I saw immediately is Hank through that N in Behang.
And it looks like she does have it set up. She did previously either overlook or pass by the CH spot, but I think she's got her eye on it this turn. So that would be a nice little fit in there if she spots it.
Yeah, I think, when you have an X on your rack like Carrie does, I think you're always looking at potential setups. For example, BAULK from that B and B hang will set up AX on your rack for next turn, but BAULK is also not a very high scoring play. So I think Hank is a very good play.
Yeah, and she has to be aware of, even this early in the game, she doesn't want to fall too behind on the scoreboard. So play like Hank basically equalizes the game. Even though she doesn't keep great letters, at least she's right there on the scoreboard.
And Juju finding what looks to be his best play of Vespa, undoubling his A, E, and S. Very nice board vision to see that S hook to Frib there. Scoring very well, highest scoring play, and arguably his best leave.
Yeah, I think this is a really good play from Jason, not just from a score perspective or a leave perspective. It also creates a nice easy lane for 7s under the A of Vespa. It just does everything right for him. So nicely spotted and nicely played very quickly.
Yep, and looks like Terry is going to grab the points with XU there, which looks to be the right play. I was, again, also considering Ulva through that V in Vespa to set up, that X for 50 some next turn, but probably better to just grab the 34 with it now and keep a fairly decent leave.
Yep, fully agreed. I think Ulva is actually a decent idea. The downside of it is Jason might sniff you out when you're putting in a U next to a triple letter like that. But it's always good to keep your eye on possible setups for yourself.
So now Jason with again a close but no cigar rack. He does have Goaty off of making BY or buy, and that is what he will choose. I was trying to determine if Hank takes the Y back hook. It should.
Indeed, it does. So that is.
So I was wondering if he would use that, but it looks like Goaty is probably correct.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made for just playing short with Yo, Y-O. It does actually kind of sneakily set up a bingo spot because you can turn BY into BYE, and you're keeping nice synergistic gates on your rack. I might have preferred Yo here just by a little bit, but really no issue with Goaty.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit too leave obsessed, so I kind of prefer Yo as well, but I also see the merits to Goaty. And then sure enough, Jason now sees the perils of blowing that rack up is that now he has drawn a bunch of owls and is in a bit of a tough spot. Terry continues to play quickly here. Playing Walla for 16.
I think this is a pretty good idea just to keep the most bingo-prone leave that you can. It does leave a little bit on the scoreboard. She had some higher scoring plays in the mid-20s that she could have chosen from. One thing that really stood out to me on that turn was possibly playing Gallo from the G of Behang, setting up her S. That was a nice score and a nice S setup, but maybe a little bit too aggro for Terry. Maybe you can speak more as to whether she's an aggro player or not.
Ooh, yeah, I've only played Terry a couple times, so I don't really have a great sense for her style of play. I was actually seeing when I saw Gallo from the G and Goaty, which I think you never play, but I really like the Gallo from the G and in Behang. However, you do have to consider that Jason did just play SAVE for 30, so she probably has a good sense that he's sitting on an S back there. And this play setting up another S hook will probably confirm that suspicion if she has it. Nice job by Jason getting rid of a bunch of vowels, scoring well, and then also kind of shaping the board so that it's friendly for bingos.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea by Jason. It's sort of telling. I would say this is a pretty transparent tell to Terry. It's like, yeah, I have an S. Why don't you do something about it? So we'll see if Terry does anything about it. She does have an S of her own, so maybe a little bit of a stalemate with both players sitting on S's, trying to goad each other into doing something with them.
Yeah, she actually does have a bingo here, one of the 47 spellings of pierogi, the plural of that playing through the G in Goaty, Pyrogies. If she, and she's got it set up, so I think we'll be seeing this hit the board momentarily.
Yeah, the downside of all those spellings of pierogies is it's hard to remember which ones are good, which ones pluralize with an IES versus IS. Some of them don't take an S because they're already plural because of an I at the end. Some of them have an H in them, like totally unexpectedly. There's, I think, one alternate spelling that involves an H. It's very hard to keep those straight in your head. And so we see...
she ended up, not being sure if pierogies was good and taking the points with Posey.
Yeah, and I think this is totally reasonable. If you're not sure if pierogies in 5-point challenge, you can't really play it.
Right.
Especially a word like that with a million alternate spellings, probably going to get a challenge from Jason. And you'd really hate to lose a turn there when you have a 50-point play like Posey that you could have made, especially thinking that Jason probably has an S, so it's really valuable to take this spot yourself.
Yeah, in 5-point challenge, I think pierogies, that spelling is almost certainly, unless you're 100% sure, probably getting challenged every time. Meanwhile, Jason continues his trend of being very close, but not having any playable bingos here. So we'll be very interested to see. There's a good spot to dump UL for 14. Making the Collins 3 ULE off of Terry's play of Posey. You could also do Ulu from that U in XU. Also a good time to shout out Seth Lipkin and the creator of Ulu. But I think drawing into AELST, when you don't have any bingos is a pretty good idea. My philosophy is that a play should either score or leave or do something to the board, preferably both. So you're not really going to score on this turn. It looks like his highest scoring play, even burning the S, would be something like a 27 for Sulu, hooking to make Vespa, or usual for 30 in that same spot. So if you're not going to score, give yourself the best leave possible. The board is fairly wide open. Just about anything you're going to draw is probably going to play, especially after if you just kind of leave it alone and play ULE. It looks like he is going to go with Galt instead.
Yeah, I think I prefer a shorter play here. Something like Yule or Ulu looked really good. Maybe Jason didn't recognize the sheer strength of a leave like AELST. those are really good letters. They'll bingo very often, especially he's got the easy lane for sevens next to movies, where you can easily end a bingo with ES or AL. I think there, while fishing is sometimes hard to do because you score so few points, I think it might have been warranted there. I think this is breaking up his rack for too little benefit.
I would agree with that. ULE, again in that bottom left was 14, so he's only scoring 2 more points, and I think that AELST leave, way more potent than the ELS leave that he had. But to show what I know, his increased turnover has led to drawing one of the blanks. So looks like we will be seeing a swap of blank bingos here over the next few minutes with Terry going first.
Yeah, I think it's basically guaranteed at this point that both players will be bingoing on their next turn. Terry, with the slightly less flexible rack of the two, those 2 E's, the I and the U, making it a little bit hard to go where she wants to go. Her best scoring plays all involve underlapping AX to make AXE, things in that area. And she does have one of them set up, retinue with a blank T. It's kind of underwhelming, but she doesn't really have many better options.
Yeah, and hopefully that she's seeing the placement that puts the blank T under the U instead of the R. Playing retinue at I guess that would be position 14H there. Would open yourself up to all sorts of big counterplays, whereas retinue 2 spaces over to the left is going to be quite defensive, and in this case is really going to limit the potency of Juju's comeback bingo. So highest scoring play and certainly seems to be the most defensive. She's got it set up on a rack, but again, a board wide open like this, certainly can't fault her for, wanting to look through. Again, you've got that L&T in Galt open, just want to make sure that you're not, missing anything. I wouldn't be surprised if she's looking through nines, maybe, through that A in Wall and the T in Galt.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots to look at. I would especially be interested in playing through the L or the T of Galt just to avoid giving back more to my opponent. Again, we've got Quackle analysis up here telling us what the plays available are. Terry does not have that benefit and needs to spend a little bit more time looking through those letters. I think she's correctly decided that she doesn't have anything better available, and she is playing this in what we believe to be the correct position. So I think a really nice find by Terry to find her best bingo among a large amount of options.
Yeah, and I think I may have, kind of overrated the defensive aspect of this play. Obviously, some sort of DELE, play off of the X to the triple will score a bunch. But when your opponent has just played 4 singles, like Jason just did, like it's very unlikely that he has, like some sort of H or M or F or W play, that's going to hurt you. So I think that given Jason's last play, I think that the bingo that Terry chose is 100% the correct one. Meanwhile, can Jason somehow underlap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like maybe even a 5 or 6 tile underlap underneath retinue here?
Don't want to be too much of a spoiler here, but Jason actually does have a complete 7 tile underlap bingo available under retinue. I won't spoil it. This feels like a good puzzle for the chat, but this is a really exciting play.
I'm not seeing it yet, but I hadn't even considered the 7 tile underlap there. I would say even the 4 tile underlap, going as far right as you can go. I think I'm sure there's quite a few of those there.
Yeah, Jason does have 4 tile overlaps starting with the I of retinue. Those are pretty good. I think there's a few of those that he's able to find, but there is one that starts with the R of retinue. That is far and away his best play.
And he's
Is he
it up.
setting it up? Oh, wow, we might
Oh,
see
are we
it.
going to see a 7-tile overlap? We are. What
Yes.
great board vision.
This is awesome. Definitely one of the best plays that we've seen on stream up to this point. Really good find by Jason here.
Very, very difficult, especially when, not having the blank there, or having the blank there, kind of hard to see that UT. And then again, the Collins only, hook, making the blank, like that is just outstanding board vision from Jason there. Very well done.
Yeah, this is great, and it took him a while to count it up. You can understand why. There's a lot of math you have to do there to get those numbers correct. But the blank is a U. He plays elutors, making utu and a bunch of other words for 96 points. Really good find by Jason. Nicely spotted, and it gives him a 30-point lead. All the better.
Yeah, so now with both blanks, 3 of the 4 S's gone, and Jason with the 30-point lead, and Terry's turn, it looks like we're going to be set up for a really close game here. Terry going to grab the points with Jog off of that A in Walla. And this is one of those where if you draw really well here, you can just about win the game for yourself. And if you draw really poorly here, you can really put yourself in a bad position when an opponent makes that somewhat aggressive play, putting a G in the triple there.
Yeah, luckily Jason drew just well enough where he should have some plays available. I think what jumps out very quickly is just playing Vogue through the G of Jog, gets rid of the sort of unfortunate vowel situation here, gets rid of the V and the U. Really does a lot of good things for him. So I would expect Vague or Vogue to come down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was just looking at which of those is better. 2 unseen of each. I think in a vacuum, A is probably a better vowel to keep than O. So Jason will go with Vogue there. So now Terry, having just drawn the Z, looks like she is set up to just plunk that Z off of Vogue. Take the quick 46. So again, very interesting situation here where we're very close game. Terry, going to cash in with the J and the Z here on consecutive turns, but Juju over here with the case S, which may come into play.
And also drawing the Q, which is going to be a hindrance with no U's unseen. It's going to have to dump that at some point.
Yeah, all of the and of course after Jason plays the last U there, I guess we should have seen that coming. So the question is, do you just get rid of it now through that T in Galt, or given how bingo prone his leave is, do you maybe exchange into AERS or ERS and try to bingo? It is, and it looks like it's actually kind of a close decision. The one option I just noticed that I had not seen before is to play that S and Q pluralizing Hank to make Hanks and Suk. This is a really interesting turn, and I'm trying to figure out what I would do here. What's your immediate impression here, Charles?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty tough one. The Q, obviously need to do something with the Q, so I think it comes down to playing Cat to the T of Galt, playing Suk through the U of Galt, or just exchanging the Q. I'm sort of getting the intuition that I would like to play Cat here, Q-A-T, keeping A-E-E-R-S. There's still one really good bingo line on this board. It's to the left of the word movies in column 2. That is, as long as that stays open, there's a lot of upside to keeping bingo-friendly leaves that involve an S. But if Jason just wants to immediately retake the lead, I feel like Suk also has a lot of upside to just keep the scoring pressure on, maybe forget about bingoing for the time being and just trying to score as much as possible.
Yeah, So looking at the unseen pool, 11 vowels, 15 consonants, that would be, 5 eyes. That would be a slight concern to that erase leave. But the other problem with cat is that it blocks your S hook to gult there. I just feel like every time I play cat, I'm gonna draw a bingo with the S in the middle that somehow doesn't play off of movies. Instead, Jason has decided to kind of punt on the cue. I was sure we would see the cue on this play either go back in the bag or on the board, but he has chosen to just take the points and undouble. Does set up his case S very nicely to maybe a 5-tile play across, but if Terry does something through the T and gulp, that cue could become a hindrance.
Yeah, that maybe I'm more Q averse than most players, but I definitely would have been trying to play the Q there, just for my own peace of mind to not have to worry about it. But as you said, Jason, there's some upside to Jason's play of Lair. It does set up his S for possible use in the future.
The other hindrance is now the 3 of the 5 eyes that he just picked out of the bag. So.
Yeah, that is not what he wants to see here. We saw there were a lot of eyes unseen, but to draw 3 of them at once on I guess that was drawing 3 eyes on a 3-tile draw. Is that right?
You're right. Yeah, he left AEQS and drew I, which is probably what he's saying to himself right now. I. So now he's. I mean, I think now you have to kind of throw the cue back and play for the bingo, or hope that Terry gets stuck with it. But instead, he's just going to dump it off of the G in Goaty. My first reaction is that I do not like this.
Yeah, I think the upside of this is kind of too low to be only scoring 14 points. You kind of need a 2-consonant draw to make this worth your while. The other option would have possibly been to play cheese QIS, making retinues to get some more points out of the Q, but also giving up on your S. Neither one felt really good to me. I was wondering if we might see an exchange on that turn.
I kind of like the exchange into maybe ES or AES there, but I think one of the benefits of Cat the turn before was that, with the 5 eyes and the 4 E's unseen, with you having the case S, there's not really a lot of good stuff left to draw. So, keeping that erase leave and only drawing 2 tiles, I think was better than burning that R, which, obviously you look at his rack right now, he probably wishes he had that back.
Yeah, definitely that R would be helping his bingo chances. There's still a lot of N's left unseen, so maybe that would be the consonant that he would view as his savior. But it's looking like at least one more turn before he's really got a shot at a bingo. I mean, we're talking a lot about bingos here. He's only down by 20 or so points. It'll be more after Terry's next play, but it kind of remains to be seen if he really will need that bingo to stay in this game. And it's maybe looking more like he does need that bingo.
Yeah, and from Terry's point of view, you look at the unseen pool, and I know that, Terry is not the most diligent tracker, but, you look at that unseen pool and you're like, you should always be asking yourself at this point, okay, how am I going to lose this game, and then work backwards and make sure that doesn't happen. So I really like this play of Fitted, basically blocking, one of the main bingo lanes on the board, and hopefully she can do something to block the other one next turn. She has set up Jason very nicely here to play to undouble his eyes and E's, to play 5 for 18, as well as give himself another bingo lane.
Yeah, I think that's a really good play by Jason. A good idea to open up another spot of the board for his future bingo. He still needs some help from the consonants, but it's not over by any means. Looking over at Terry's rack, though, she does have a 7-letter word, and it is playable on this turn. So if she is able to find it, that would be, I think, a big boon for her.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe she plays Khan or Kuhn in that spot to kill the board, but that I guess is a good lesson in that, every turn, always first thing you do is look for the bingo. I was not even looking for a bingo, but Terry does indeed have one. I don't think we've mentioned it yet. I don't want to spoil it in case I'm sure that Chad is on top of it though. And indeed they are. So yeah, if Terry does not see the word non-core, which plays off of that M in movies, um, what do you think here? I feel like a Khan or a Kuhn to kind of kill the board for bingos is the best option. Again, when you look at the unseen pool, it's a bunch of singles and a couple Ds. It's very unlikely that Jason is basically going to have to bingo from or through that E and Phi, and I think I think if he does, I think you just kind of say, good game and let him have it. But again, I think you ask yourself like, how am I going to lose this game? Like you're going to lose this game when he bingos off of that really juicy line in movies. Now we saw that. And continuing with his vowelitis of the end of the game, Jason played IE and drew IE. And again, he's probably saying IE to himself right now. Um, so yeah, what are your thoughts on this turn? Terry's got a bunch of time left, and I expect her to use a bunch of it because this play will kind of define the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think a play like Kuhn to the left of movies would have made a lot more sense if Phi hadn't been played. Now that Phi's been played, it feels you can't block the whole board on this turn.
Okay.
Those bingo lines are too far apart. But maybe it's a good idea to block one and then hope that Jason has not drawn a bingo and then block the other one next turn. And I think that might be sort of a two-part plan for her with this play of on.
Yeah, and I disagree with you there. I think you block the most fruitful line, which is the one off of movies, and you make him find something through the more difficult one, the way that the board is set up. Nothing wrong with Terry's play. She's going to undouble her O's and N's. And now Jason will fish off the I, and so now if you're Terry, it's a good thing that you kept that N. Or that C rather, because now you can just kind of throw that in the open quadrant, unless there is a hook to ICH that I'm not considering.
So there is Sitch. I think Jason
Okay,
is setting up
yes,
his S.
I forgot the S hook. So that's a very nice play by Jason. Very nice to give himself another option. So if you're Terry, haven't looked at the potential options yet, but Crone off of the M in movie sticks out to me. That will just about kill the board for bingos. Again, you're only up 24. You could get outscored, but I think it's fairly unlikely. Also, perhaps Connor hooking the R to Ick to make rich. However, that does give the potential of bingos through that C coming back. So to me, Crone looks like the star play here. What say you?
Yeah, I think Crone looks pretty good here. The only way you lose, I believe, after Crone would be some miracle bingo to the left of Crone. I actually would need to do some thinking to see if there's anything in the bag that actually would work in that spot. That might
Well,
be.
that would be a good thing to be concerned about, considering that your opponent has just made a 7-tile overlap this game. So,
Yeah. Jason is going to be well aware of how to make overlaps on this board. Again, going back to that crazy 7-tile overlap of eluders, just totally nuts. Maybe he can recreate that magic again if Terry plays something like Crone, although we do know that with Jason's letters as they are, he's not
yeah,
going to be able to find anything on that spot.
yeah, and it would have to fit perfectly because you can't go to the one side of the C, so it's there's 7 tiles, so it would have to be begin with a vowel. It basically has to go vowel consonant. Without a blank, like that's really hard to do. So you can see Terry, she looks to be catching up on her tracking here, and with 2 in the bag, like this is a time where you have to know exactly what your opponent could have. And when she sees those remaining tiles, I think that she'll know that her play needs to be, something throwing the C out there, to block that, that bingo line.
Yeah, this is actually a really good time for Terry to have the C. This is why the C is somewhat beloved among Scrabble players. It's a good bingo tile, but it also is a good defensive tile when you need it to be. And I think Terry's really happy to see the C on her rack, giving her some flexibility to stop bingos from what her POV is, a very, very fruitful looking bingo pool remaining.
And yeah, and that's, Terry, played very fast at the beginning of this game. And I think that, also speaks for why one does that, that now she has, a good 6 minutes. And again, it looks like she's still working on her tracking over there. But, I always tried to hoard my time for the pre-end game and end game, because that's where you make plays where the difference in winning percentage according to Quackle is 100 and 0. You maybe make a misplay early in the game. It's the difference between a 55 and a 45 winning percentage. But but this is where you can can win or lose games with one turn. So even if her tracking is off a little bit, I think it will be good enough, to see that, we have a bunch of singles and a very balanced pool. You look at, Jason's past few turns, playing off the QI, playing off the IE, playing off the I. It's clear that he's very close to something, even if your tracking is off. So, again, just want to make sure that all of those big tiles are accounted for. If you play Crone off of the M in movies, just make sure all the H's are gone, all the M's are gone, the W's, the Y's, et cetera, et cetera. Because Crone will only give her a lead of 40-ish. And you just want to make sure that you aren't, setting your opponent up for a 50-point non-bingo that could lose you the game.
Yeah, I agree with all your points, Jason. I think it's also sort of a check on Terry's word knowledge here. Is she aware of all the hooks on Ik? Not only does it take an S, it also takes a D, and it takes an R. She probably does know the R hook. I think it also takes a T. So even if you only know the R hook, you probably should be worried about it. But if you know all those other hooks, that spot should put the fear of God in you.
Especially with an R unseen. Especially with an R unseen. Even if you didn't notice the S hook like I didn't. And it looks like she's set up corner to go there. And again, Jason's probably sitting there wondering if there's any way that she doesn't block both spots for ID8s, while also recognizing that that's almost certainly what will happen.
Yeah, the only downside to something like corner from Terry's POV is it does sort of float out the C and the O.
Yeah. The O as well. The O would be a trickier hit, but possible. And again, when you look at that pool of such balanced remaining tiles, it's that's why I like Crone in this situation, because Crone the board is basically dead, unless he hits something from the NE. Oh my! She decides to just play the R to leave one tile in the bag.
I don't know if this is right, just because you don't want to give Jason another chance to fish and do something crazy. This makes me uneasy.
I think the plan was, if he bingos, I'll bingo back. But after he bingos in that second column, like, where is your bingo going to go? You can't play any 8s through anything. And indeed, ID8s is coming down. So
looks like Jason might be double checking his tracking to see if there's any bingos in the pool that he's giving up.
Yes. Am I giving up a 5-tile overlap that puts the C on the double letter there? That close to fitting CRONE there, except for the existence of RI. But yeah, that's his only play, and he makes it, and looks like he's going to win this game.
Yeah, nicely done by Jason to get that bingo down, sort of in the one remaining spot. I do think Terry will probably want that turn back.
Oh yeah, I'm sure when they look at this game later, or she's she's going to regret that for sure. But I mean, that's what makes pre-endgame so tricky, right? Is that there's two in the bag. You don't know exactly what your opponent has, and so you can't stop everything. Like you said with corner, which she had set up on a rack. That gives your opponent a C to bingo through. She's shaking her head. She's, oh, if I just put that C out there, he wouldn't have had anything through it with ID8s. But again, you don't know. All you can do is make the best decision you can with the information that you have. And unfortunately for Terry, this one just didn't work out right for her.
Yeah, I think there are some good ideas behind Rich, but maybe a little bit too.
You saw her; she took the S off the board and between Fribs and Vespa, as if she was bingoing out with Connors. But yeah, after he bingos, you could also side lap with another bingo. So I think there's merit to the I'm going to leave one in the bag, and if he bingos, my leave is pretty good, and there's a lot of times I'm going to bingo back and win. I just don't think that was the time for it.
Right. And she might have also perhaps overestimated her ability to outscore Jason, like with a non-bingo play, like thinking something like ID8s will give me a 40-point counterplay, so it doesn't matter that he's bingoing.
Yeah, very unlucky that, she drew the N to go with the two that she left as well.
But when she grabbed the S from Vespa, I had a brief moment of panic, like, was I reading her that completely wrong?
But again, these two are friends, and good that even at the end of a painful loss, that when she looks back later, realizes that coulda, shoulda, woulda been one, that she still had the sense of humor to do that, and you have to know your opponent really well to do that, because there are certain people who probably won't take that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I would reserve that behavior for close friends over the Scrabble board. I would not do that to a rando. That would feel, even if I'm losing, would feel somewhat mean.
Yeah. So Da for 9 has to be best and is. And that'll do it. Really, really fun, exciting game.
And, yeah, nicely,
a little bit of
played.
justice. Sorry, a little bit of justice that Jason was able to pull out the win after that 7-tile overlap right there.
Yeah, I think just for that reason, he if there's any such thing as deserving in Scrabble, deserved to win the game.
Yeah, but, and see, Terry's saying right now, she could have played corner, and I think she's pointing to that spot. I don't think she ever had Crone set up on her rack. Again, I thought that was the star play, which totally killed the board for bingos. It's possible she just didn't see it, but her first reaction was to point at the board like, I could have played corner there, and do you have anything through the C? And they're going to look it up and realize that he didn't.
Yeah, and I think Terry's thought process was, I mean, there's some flaws in it, but the idea of not wanting to play Connor or corner, giving up letters for Jason to bingo out with, I mean, that's a really logical thing to try to do, is just not give your opponent anything to work with. That is what Rich did. It blocked the most dangerous bingo line, or one of the most dangerous bingo lines, although I guess I would say maybe those two bingo lines are almost equal in how likely they get hit. But either way, she blocked one of them, he hit the other, and she couldn't score enough in the end game to pull it out.
Yeah, I was viewing that bingo line off of movies as the most dangerous one, only because, again, I forgot the S hook to ICH there. So yeah, any bingo ending in S versus you have to kind of there's some bingos that do not play along that movie spot, even though it is set up very nicely. If you end with two consonants, you're going to have bingos that play in that spot off of Ik, that don't play in the other spot. So I think blocking there was very nice. So yeah, just it's hard. It's also hard to empty the bag in a pre-end game like that, though.
Yeah,
And I understand why she wanted to leave one there. Because if you play corner or Connor and then he has a bingo through the C, like that's game. Whereas after you play off the one, there are situations in which he bingos, but then you still win when you bingo back.
yeah, it feels less immediate. It feels like you still have a chance no matter what happens after you make a play like Rich. You always are going to get another turn. You're going to have a chance to make something happen and pull a win out. Whereas emptying the bag, you sort of get that crushing feeling when an out bingo comes, like, oh, I should never have emptied the bag. Everybody tells me I shouldn't empty the bag, and I did it anyway.
All right, so they're starting to corner that up, but yeah, heartbreaking loss for Terry because, and again, that's the cruelty of Scrabble. I thought for the whole of the game, I actually thought that she played better. Looking at her turns before that, I mean, not knowing non-core, but for the first half of the game, I thought she actually played better with what she had. But again, sometimes you make a mistake in the pre-end game, and that looms larger than the ones you make earlier.
Yeah, I agree. I think both players played well in the early and mid game. I think Jason missed a couple bingos, but no easy gimmies that he missed and made up for it with that nice find of eluders. We're going to continue to celebrate a really cool 7-letter overlap. You don't see a whole lot of 7-letter overlaps in Scrabble.
Have you done it? I never have. I don't think I ever have.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done a 7-tile overlap. I've done 6 a few times. I've had some 6s with some crazy like 4 to 5 overlaps.
Oh, wow.
Cool stuff like that. But the dream is just to hit 7 right on top of 7 and
right.
hit it perfectly. I have
seen it. I sat next to a game where 7 on top of 7 the first 2 plays.
That would distract me. I would not be able to pay attention to my own game if I was sitting next to something like that.
I assume you saw Will's video with the 7-tile overlap with that 3x7 square or rectangle, I should say, that probably has never been seen before and may never be seen since. So
yeah, pretty rare. I guess that's a good point to plug Will Anderson's channel if people out there aren't aware of it. I mean, everybody viewing this right now is already on YouTube, so you're already a YouTube user. Check out Will Anderson's channel, one of our premier content creators, making videos basically every week. And I think he'll be doing some more commentary later in this tournament. And I think, Jason, you might actually get the privilege of working with Will himself.
Yes, I believe the current plan is for us to do the last 4 rounds on Wednesday morning. So very much looking forward to that. We're going to see some incredibly high level play on table 1 to determine the winner of a huge tournament with an incredibly talented field. So yes, very much looking forward to working with Will on Wednesday and or tomorrow.
And so I think we're going to go to a break in a little bit, but while we wait for that, we can do a couple more plugs. We want to make sure that everybody's aware of the team that's putting this event together. Not only the team, but the sponsors. We've got letsplayscrabble.com, Josh Greenway, Kieran O'Connor, their whole army of volunteer helpers doing all kinds of cool things to make this event happen, including the stream that you're watching now. And of course, Bob Lynn, donating a lot of his own money to make this stream happen, to make more players available to play in the Collins division, special prizes in Division 2 of Collins. He's doing a lot of things to make this event a success. So we're very thankful to everybody who's putting this event together.
Absolutely.
So still not going to break. I guess we've got a little bit more time to kill.
Trying to think of good topics to discuss here.
Who else can we shout out? We can shout out the other commentators. We had Will on earlier, of course, Jason on now, Nits Chagti on the stream earlier this morning. We're going to see Matt Canik, everybody's favorite Matt Canik, who's commentator extraordinaire for many large tournaments. I think you'll be seeing him tomorrow. So if really you're only tuning in for Matt, if you don't care about all these other guys, tomorrow will be the day that you want to tune in. It's always fun watching Matt commentate those games. And I think I'm losing track of time here, Jason. I think we have 2.5 days of Scrabble left after this.
1.5 after this. So, yeah, I was going to say, at the end, I was going to say a double whammy for all the stream viewers, in that you won't be here and I will. So that's that's a bad news situation. Thank you for doing those plugs right there, and yes, thank you for all who made this stream possible. I think we're ready to go to break here while we figure out round 15 matchups. So yeah, so we will be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Albany New Year's round 15. Nice little treat for you this round, in that we have a good opportunity to highlight a Division II game between two players that have taken advantage of the incentives that Boblin has provided. So tournament players who are brand new to CSW, one at 10.5 and 3.5 through 14 rounds, the other 8 and 6. So potentially a game that determines the Division II winner. We have Mike Downey, who is, like I said, currently in either first or second place, depending on how this other round 14 game shook out, versus Bardwell McGrew.
So looking at the standings here, it looks like Mike in second place, but right on the heels of Cheryl Melvin. And so is looking to sort of get back into first place, resume his sort of king spot atop the top of the standings. Barbara definitely also looking to make a move at this point. So this should be a really good game.
Yes, absolutely. And you look at Barbara, although ninth in the standing, sixth in terms of average score, and Mike, second, but, with 1/10 of a point difference. So, also noticed in his recent games, he put up a 563. So, even if your opponent drew very poorly, like his opponent apparently did, to put up a 563, you must know what you're doing. So.
Yeah, Mike doing very well in this tournament. His, as we said, both players playing their first ever Collins tournament, thanks to the Boblin sponsorship money. And I think both players are just about ready to go here. So I think if the players are ready, we can get started.
Yeah, so, looking at the standings just in terms of score. So again, two of the top six scoring players in Division II. So this should be a pretty good game. So I think the players are probably just waiting for an okay from us. Looks like Mike will be going first. And the bag's on the table. Mike is ready, and we are going to be underway.
So I just did a little bit of intel on these players right before we started. Mike is relatively new to the Scrabble scene. This is his first Collins tournament, but he's only been playing sanctioned tournaments since 2023. So a quickly improving player. We always like to see that. And Barb McGrew is maybe a little bit longer term player. She's been playing since the early 2000s. She's certainly seen it all.
Mike is apparently out of the Ottawa club, which is certainly if you're a Collins player, Ottawa is the place to be with Adam Logan and Jeremy Hildebrand and Matthew Tunnicliffe, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly seems to be an up and comer, and if you're an up and comer, like I said, playing against people like that at your club is a great place to be. Yin. For 12, leaving that very nice SENS leave. Being from Ottawa, of course, he would leave Sens on his rack. The Sens being one of my favorite NHL teams. So, thoughts on that play, Charles?
That was good instincts by Mike there to get rid of his duplicate ends. I think it's really not necessary to play one of your two S's on that turn and telegraph that you have two of them. I think with those nice letters, keeping ENSS, you can keep both S's with no penalty. It's worth noting there was kind of a crazy bingo there. A lot of players in this room would be hard-pressed to find it, but I just guess for curiosity's sake, the bingo there was sin sign. That is basically impossible unless you've studied it, Jason.
Yeah, and double N, double SY. That's not something that a lot of people, even in Division I, would have studied. So Barbara, with a bunch of consonants on her opening turn, will play Hunt. Pretty good score there. Play makes a lot of sense. You might have wanted to do Hut, INRT, a very powerful leave, but Hunt a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, no, I think it's nice to just keep the one vowel and two consonants. A good instinct by Barb here, Barb or Barbara. I'm not sure which she prefers, but we'll go with Barb. It's easier.
All right.
A good instinct there to try to get rid of as many consonants as possible, holding only two vowels. And IRT does have some flexibility for developing as a bingo rack, especially as you see she drew an E. Maybe some of those other letters not what she wanted, but she's getting there. So I think a good idea by Barb to play Hunt.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those. If she knew that she was going to draw a bunch of vowels out of the bag, she would have played Hunt and kept INRT, which would have gone real nice with those E's. But nothing wrong with Hunt.
And we see Mike.
Yeah, interesting decision here from Mike. What do you think here?
Definitely playing the X feels like a necessity here. Mike does have Goxes set up. I'm guessing he's looking at Goxes and Hunts. Oh, he's actually going underneath. Also a nice scoring spot for the X. This is going to score 26 points. I think it's definitely worth it here to play one of your two S's. Makes it easier for you to play the X and you get some extra points out of it. So I think that this is a good idea by Mike, just to keep NS. That's got a lot of synergy as possible bingo tiles in the future.
Yeah, that throwing that G out there whenever you have an N behind always feels pretty good.
We are seeing pointed out in chat that Mike actually did have a nice play to that triple Exons, EXONS. That would have been a 60-pointer. So actually, rather than worrying about keeping bingo tiles, might have been able to just get a bingo score on that turn. So maybe didn't look at that spot or just didn't see the word. But
yeah, I think sometimes
still pretty good.
Yeah, it's like, well, I want to get rid of my X, I want to get rid of my double S, and I want to get rid of this G, and Goxes does that. Do I want to play it here or there? Sometimes you kind of have to get out of that mindset and kind of look for your highest scoring play first. But
so now, as we mentioned earlier, Barb's drawn duplicate E's and duplicate I's. That is not a very nice place to be. She does have a C for scoring, but really on this board, the C isn't doing a whole lot for her. She's doesn't really have any hot spots that she can easily hit. So just doing something to hit the double word feels like a good idea here.
Yep, getting rid of double I, double E. with Trice again, apparently a little bit of a blindness to that spot under Hunt, because she did have Icier, which is one of those words that's kind of strangely difficult to see. A common word, but when you have the double I's and you're looking to get rid of one, it's kind of one of those words that doesn't just readily make itself available to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's definitely been times where I'm sitting on two I's and a C and an E, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I ended up making a horrible play, and I just had Icier waiting to be played, begging to be played. But I agree, it is kind of a hard word to see. Again, this is a good idea by Barb to get rid of duplicates on her rack and sort of move on from those letters.
So meanwhile, Mike actually does. I did not think he had a playable bingo here, but it turns out that he does. He has the word Ingrams, Ingrums, in a couple spots, which I have never seen before. And then the word, I'm assuming it's pronounced Roomings, with a U through that O in Goxes. But I expect we're going to see probably a play like MU. The question is, do you play it under the OX of Goxes and risk kind of potentially messing yourself up next turn? Maybe you have some sort of INGS bingo that no longer plays with that G in Goxes. Or do you maybe play it off of Trice and give yourself some more options there? Thoughts on what the best fish is here?
Yeah, I think, again, Ingram's a very tough word. It's columns only. So even if Mike was an established NWL player, something like Ingram's would be very hard to spot. And I think Mike is...
Roomings is columns only as well, correct?
Yes, yeah. Any bingo here is columns only. So a tough turn for bingos. But I think Mike has correctly determined that the letters GINRS do have a lot of synergy together. He should be trying to keep them together if possible so that he can maximize his chances of a bingo. There's a lot of E's in the bag. Early in the game, there's usually a lot of E's in the bag, this game being no exception. If you can draw one of those E's, that leave gets really, really powerful. The other nice thing about the board as it is he's got a nice spot for ING bingos above Hunt, turning his into G's, putting the G right on top of his. If he sees that spot, that makes the ING combo really powerful.
So he's actually decided to play Mug, with the open G already. I kind of like the other peril of playing MU under Goxes is that it also blunts that E that you may want to bingo through later. So with a leave of RINS, having that open G and open E, not to mention the S hook to Hunt, the S hook to Trice, that works out really well for him.
Yeah, that was a nice idea by Mike, and also probably smartly not keeping a vowel and 4 consonants. That can go wrong if you draw 2 consonants. Meanwhile, Barb with a really nice find here. Good job by her to spot Bothies.
Yes, that is not an easy find and not something that I saw right away. So a very nice play. Taking the highest scoring option, kind of throwing caution to the wind. Not that you're going to triple through that B too often. And unfortunately, Mike drew three consonants into his leave. He does have bitterns through that E though, which is, I guess, one of the benefits of leaving that E open there. But we'll see if he sees that or if he decides to fish again.
Yeah, that one is actually tough to find, even if you know the word, just because with these letters, you're sitting on only one vowel. You might immediately discount the idea that you might have a bingo on this turn. It's very, very easy to get caught up in the fact that you have 6 consonants and just try to move on to seeing what you can do to play off as many consonants as possible. And I think that's what Mike is immediately going for here is, how can I play off some of these consonants while scoring some points? He would like to leave that E open and Trice, as you mentioned, Jason, just for future bingo considerations. Would also maybe like to keep IN again for ing bingos. There's a couple ways you can go about this, but I think this is a really good play to keep this is maybe the best four consonant leave that you can keep in Scrabble.
It is definitely the best four consonant leave that you can keep. You got that O up there. That E has kind of been blunted a little bit, but is still possible. Maybe even something ST. Making XIS and YETT. And you keep scoring. I feel like I kind of get myself in trouble in these spots when when I play bit through the eye of Bothies for 10. When you can actually play that eye for what was that score? What was the score of bit, by the way? Sorry.
That was 28 points, so a really nice score for bit.
Yes, exactly. So an extra 18 points, to get rid of the eye is probably worth it, especially early in the game. So meanwhile, Barbara has found all the vowels that Mike cannot, and she will dump those with Goon, spotting the O hook to bit.
Yeah, nice spot there. It's always important to keep in mind your hooks, and Barbara seems to be doing that, turning bit into O-bit. One downside of this, it keeps the V and the U together. You want to avoid that if possible, but this scores a decent amount of points and gets rid of those two O's that are sort of causing problems. So I think this is a good idea by Barb.
And meanwhile, Mike is continuing to draw nothing but consonants, and has a decision to make here.
Yeah, this is tough. Last turn he had some flexibility with the one vowel. This turn, simply no vowels to work with. He does have vowels on the board that he can play through. That's the one saving grace here, is he can play through the O of Bothies or the I of Bothies. I think we're going to probably see a play in one of those two spots.
Yeah, and it looks like he can, depending on how many consonants he wants to leave here, he can do something like wilt or twirl through that I in Bothies to set up his S. Similarly, he can do something like wart, through the O to set up his S. But I really kind of like the idea of playing wilt or twirl. I kind of like wilt, obviously. NRS blank is going to convert, just about all the time. You have the S. There's only two unseen. We know that Barbara has one, but he doesn't. So, yeah. What do you think among the one of those turns where there really isn't a super obvious fish here? What do you see?
I actually do like twirl here. The reason I like twirl is it puts that T over to the left of Bothies in a way that you can then play ST, the weird Collins only two-letter word ST. It would set up a nice line for sevens if you were to play twirl. Now, speaking from experience as a player who switched to Collins just a few years ago, the word ST is really hard to see. I was missing it on a regular basis. I'm still missing it to this day, honestly. Don't tell anybody. I didn't say anything, but that is a really tough two-letter word to realize that you can use to your advantage. So it wouldn't be too much of a surprise if Mike falls into the same trap that so many other new Collins players have fallen into with that word.
That is a good point, and honestly, I had kind of discounted twirl, thinking, you have to, it's going to have to end in a vowel. Coincidentally, I once had a tournament Collins game where I had twirled on my rack and an open S, and ST is one of those words that it's easy to forget about, as a primarily NWL player. So, he's chosen Rit, which is pretty good. That won't set up the S that Barbara has too badly. Still 9 E's to draw. If he can find one of them, he'll almost certainly have a bingo there.
Yeah, actually, I do like that idea to sort of set up the E in addition to the S. That gives him just a little bit more flexibility if he does draw bingo to be able to get it down on the board. So I think that's a good idea by Mike. Switching over to Barb, I think she realized that she had D values on her rack. Luckily for Mike, unluckily for Barb, was not actually given an E to work with. So kind of dodged a bullet there that Mike was not putting an E out in space.
Yeah, and she is going to play, what I saw first, valued, hooking the E to Rit to make right, triples the D, doubles everything. This is going to be a pretty good scoring play, and obviously leaving, other than the blank, best one tile even Scrabble.
Yeah, I do like this play a lot. One downside is it does sort of open that right hand triple, but it's really not that dangerous of a spot. And you're scoring so well here. You're scoring 36 points. I think you have to do it.
And so Mike will almost certainly be converting this rack on this turn. I'm seeing Seconal off of right in that far right column there. And that looks to be his best option.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at. I had to look up this rack in Zizva just because there's a lot of bingos available. A lot of them are a little bit difficult. There's some strange words here, and I'm actually sort of scanning the board, seeing if there's like a more straightforward option that fits somewhere. Because it's hard to. The benefit of a play like Twirl we mentioned last turn. Ooh, we've got an overdraw situation.
Yeah, we have an overdraw here. She looks like she drew 7, so that was very kind of them to put it out on the screen so we can see what's going on. He looks at VPD, and I think throwing the D back is probably the smart thing to do. So.
Yep. So it's kind of an untalked about feature of Scrabble is overdraw strategy, and I think Mike nailed that one. But as I was suggesting earlier, there's the upside to playing something like Twirl on the turn before is you give yourself an easy spot to play 7s that end with an S.
Right.
And the board as it is does not have a spot where you can play a bingo ending in an S very easily. So something that you might see like Falcons or Klaxons or Canolas, words that I think Mike would be able to see, they don't fit on this board, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and so that's what, as he's shuffling, he seems to be, finding those words, when he needs to be, Seconal is very difficult to see. Again, hooking that, if you're looking for something in that spot, you're probably going to look at something starting in the A or the O, or maybe starting S-O-S-A, looking for something starting S-E, making that blank and E is not exactly, terribly intuitive, so...
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's possible that Mike does not bingo on this turn just because the bingos he would have to find are somewhat difficult.
He hasn't set up any of those yet, and again, not knowing Mike very well or how much he studied or how deep into word study he is. Seconal is one that you have to study to know. Similarly, oil cans, alnicos, they're not something that that kind of come naturally. If Mike is a good anagrammer, which I'm sure that he is, he's probably finding the words like falcons that you're talking about and canolas. It's just unfortunate for him that the way the board is currently shaped that those are not going to go down. So this is a turn you're probably going to take a long time on, because if you've concluded that there are no bingos, which takes some time in and of itself. He found he does see Shalon C8. Is that's sorry, that is a word, right? I'm not making stuff up.
Oh, how are we spelling it?
I'm sorry. That's Lochans. It looked like he was setting up Chalons. Seeing Scallion, through the L and the O, that's very good anagramming, even though he does not have that on this board. Yeah,
and we can't discount the fact that there might be some stream jitters from one or both of these players.
I was going to mention that at the start. Mike Downey, 15 games into his Collins tournament career, like, hey, come play on stream for everybody to watch. So
I'd say up to this point, both players have played very well. We're happy with their plays. The bingos that Mike has here are kind of hard to find, so I'm not surprised that he's moving on from it, playing the new word "loke." Am I saying that right? Lock.
I mean, I'm the one who said Behang last game, which cannot possibly be right. So I will not criticize your pronunciation, but I like that. Again, being a new word, I'm not 100% sure on the hooks for that, but I'm going to assume it takes the S.
Yes, it does take an S in addition to a few other things.
As well as the A, which he has. So and so then of course he draws 3 consonants, but. So unfortunately for Mike, he did not find the Oh, that's right. She kept the S, so he couldn't have found the S on the overdraw. So Barbara's just gonna take that spot, playing Seep. Again, a play like Lock probably, especially after that length of deliberation, indicates that your opponent's pretty close to bingoing. So probably behooves you to take the best spot, even though it involves burning the S.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea by Barb to take out the best scoring spot on the board. Mike just spent a long time on his play and then made a short, low-scoring play, which indicates that he might be sitting on some pretty good letters. So if you expect, he'll definitely be bingoing, well, at least you can minimize the damage of his bingo when it does come down.
Yeah, Barb's clock is still running. It looks like there's maybe not sure exactly how many that scores. Okay, they finally neutralized. So maybe a discrepancy in the scores, or yeah, it looks like they're probably re-adding this up right here. So.
And it looks like, yeah, this is another thing that happens sometimes with first-time stream players. They'll knock the cameras askew. Producer is aware of it and is coming to the rescue to fix Barb's wreck.
Meanwhile, a very nice job by Mike to anagram and see nauseas, which plays under LOC there. Maybe looking for a better option. Okay, well, he's just circled the blank slips, so we are about to see. Yeah, so also plays under trice as well. So again, when you draw into ANS and draw three vowels, easy to go, to bemoan your luck and things like that. But nausea is not the easiest bingo to find. A very fairly low prob one. So a nice job of anagramming by Mike.
Yeah, nice job by Mike to find that one relatively quickly. I think he saw it almost instantly. He had it set up on his rack, so a very quick turn for him after spending a long time on his previous turn. He also, before that turn, was down by a lot. He was down 114 to 200, so he really needed a bingo on that turn, and he delivered. So this game is close once again.
Yeah, and one of the perils of Seep was keeping that FV combo, although it hasn't hurt her too badly here.
Yeah, definitely. When I draw the F and the V together, my first thought is I need to play phobia somewhere. I'm not sure if she knows that word, but it is a helpful word to know. So for anybody out there who is reluctant to do too much studying, well, here's a little bit of studying for you. You can remember phobia. It comes up very often, and it's quite useful.
So yeah, haven't looked at what her options are here. I did recognize that she has the Collins 5 of AVIZE, which looks like it plays pretty well on top of Mug. That's probably not something that somebody new to Collins will know. I remember I learned it when an opponent played AVYZE on me. He probably got the nickel for that as well. So.
Yeah, I think I have the feeling that a lot of these players playing Collins for the first time, it was kind of a spur of the moment decision. They saw that the incentives were being offered to make the switch by Bob Lynn, who sponsored so much of this tournament, and they just decided to go for it. And so they probably didn't have a ton of time to get deep into the Collins 5s, maybe looking at the 2s, some of the 3s, and just making it work with the word knowledge that they already have.
Yeah, so Barbara's going to cash in the Z. Yeah, so far I think the only LOC on the board, but Mike did play OB when he played Bit. So Barbara cashing in the Z with Nazi, or maybe she's not.
I think that is a good play, so I'd be happy to see her put that one back on the board. A nice 39 points. It does keep the F and the V, but with some decent vowels still in hand, FV is not going to be a complete killer like it sometimes can be. So Nazi does look like a good play here.
Yeah, I was going to say I was so focused on that A hook when Mike made it, considering that he had one, I forgot about the O hook. So the word you mentioned of phobia earlier plays down there. However, that certainly gives a lot back to your opponent, who, having just bingoed, is probably more likely to have a clunky tile that goes there. So she decides to play Zoo instead. I actually kind of preferred Nazi a little bit, but I don't really have a strong preference between the two.
Yeah, I think Nazi scores a little bit more, so just for that reason, I would like it. But Zoo is also a nice way to use the Z, 32 points, pretty straightforward. Doesn't open too much up, although I will say in Collins, ZE is a word. So this is kind of like a sneaky bingo line that NWL players might not realize actually exists.
Right, I was going to say it blocks like EST bingos, but actually it doesn't. So if Mike's board vision is good, or Barbara's, they may be bingoing there later. So looks like we have another scoring discrepancy that is being cleared up as the clock is neutralized.
Yeah, this is exactly why both players are keeping score. It's because all these Scrabble players, me included, basic arithmetic is not our strong suit. We need somebody to double check our work here.
And then, Mike's knocked a couple of his tiles under the board there, and now a third. So yeah, unfortunately, Mike has drawn arguably the most frustrating of post bingo draws when you draw a bunch of singles and you're close to a lot of stuff, but no real great plays here, no real high scoring plays. Nothing that's going to score 30, and nothing that's going to give you a really dynamic leave.
Yeah, this is a tough turn for Mike. Especially if he's not going to use one of the hooks on lock, and he actually does here, playing the somewhat uncouth word of dildo, but it's going to score him a lot of points, and I actually do think that this is his best play.
I really like this play. I actually think this is his best play too. Great leave. Board still fairly open for bingos, and NT is probably the best leave you're going to have out of that. Dildo was one of, if not his highest scoring play. So, I think that is a Quackle approved play for sure.
Yeah, and also nice board vision to turn lock into loci. That's not a straightforward hook. Loci isn't a word that comes to mind naturally when you're looking at those letters. So good job on multiple fronts by Mike to make that play.
And the bag has rewarded him thusly as drawing into NT. He has drawn basically the perfect draw. Barbara makes what has to be her best play of Fave. Could have played Fava as well.
Yeah, Fava, a little bit of an improvement there to keep IE blank versus IA blank, but really minor difference. You just really want to hit that spot, playing your F and your V, and that's exactly what she did.
Kind of maybe one of those, because Fave was what I saw first, maybe one of those instances of find your best play, then find a better one. I think she found her best play of Fave, and maybe might have been worth the time there to see Fava as well. But Fave is absolutely fine. So Mike with a bunch of options, looks like he's got Granite set up. So it looks like he will almost certainly be bingoing either row 3 or row 4. Making Granite or Ingrate as well as ZE, or Granite Ingrate hitting the double as well as EW. Also has that spot that Barbara just created. So which of these places to bingo, if you're in Mike's shoes with this rack, where are you going with this?
Yeah, this is I think at a certain point you just play the bingo that that's the safest thing here. And for Mike, that might be something like tearing, just taking the easy bingo spot, really not giving back too much. Ingrate and Granite on the top rows might be giving back a little bit more, whereas this is quite safe. And Mike is taking a small lead with this play, so I think this is a good decision by him.
I tend to agree. I think that's the spot to play it, especially an ing word like that. You're not going to give much coming back to your opponent. And Barbara has QI in her hand, hopefully going atop the blank S in Nauseas, a nice way to score 31 and leave quite well. But sometimes blank blindness hits and you don't see it. Also, QI, I just noticed it bottom right there off of the D and dildo, with DI being a Collins too. So
Yeah, and although maybe the fact that it's a Collins too could work against her.
She found it
I
there. All right,
spoke
so
too soon.
she did look at the Collins twos, and yeah, that has to be your best play there, correct?
Yep, I think this is pretty clearly her best play, scoring 36 points, keeping a good leave with the blank. There's still spots to bingo on rows 3 and 4, as we mentioned earlier. So even though she was down going into that turn, she takes a small lead here, and things are looking pretty good for her to bingo sometime
Yeah, I
as
was
we
going to
approach
say,
the end game.
yeah, with all those R's out, I wouldn't be surprised at all if she draws something that allows her to bingo next turn, and she's So meanwhile, so now in Mike's position, pretty even game, down 20, blank unseen, fairly balanced pool. What is the play here? Are you trying to set up your own bingo, or are you just trying to score as many as you can with the K and the Y there, or
Yeah, I
both?
think Mike should be looking at just trying to keep up the scoring pressure. Um, I feel like Barb's recent plays have not really indicated that she's close to a bingo, so I don't think he should be playing as if a bingo from her is imminent.
That is
I don't.
true. Like, it's one of the benefits of Fave and QI. As an opponent, or as the player, when my opponent plays that, it's like that they could be leaving, AERT blank, or they could be leaving, FM, AA, like, you just don't know. So that makes it, really hard when your opponent, could have anything. Like, you don't know what the threat is. You don't know what you should be blocking. You don't know what you should be concerned about.
So Mike does have a kind of a clever little play up in the top right of the board, where we've kind of, I think, just intuitively assumed that that area of the board is totally dead. Really hard to play between the B and the V there. He does have a play of bevy if he spots it, which would have been a really nice score. But this is also a good way to use both the K and the Y for a nice score, making a Collins only 2 of YU. So again, displaying his awareness of some Collins words. I think this is a good play.
Yeah, I had missed Bevy myself. I'm not sure which you prefer, but between the two, I kind of like K there.
Yeah, and I think it's also sort of underrated as a defensive move. It makes bingos on top of rights just harder to hit. It sort of forces Barb to be aware of ZE as a bingo spot. So there's some upside here. I'm looking at the pool actually, and I see there's only one remaining O. So we'll see if K gets turned into OK. That's possibly a downside from Mike's POV.
So this is a very interesting turn right here, because as you can see, Mike has Fillery on his rack, all set up to go underneath that Z in Zoo. Um, Despite having a very balanced rack, Barbara only has one playable bingo, that being the famous anagram of Wigan, windage. Not an easy word to see if you haven't studied it. Also, you're looking at that rack. The W kind of gets in the way. You see, maybe ED bingos. So if Barbara leaves that spot open, like this turn coming up right here could swing the game.
Yep, for sure. If Mike sees the spot for Fillery, and we know he saw the bingo of Fillery, if we assume he sees the spot making ZE, although maybe it's not going to matter.
I was thinking, I was thinking that if she left it, if she didn't play the bingo, that she would play somewhere else, but want or wait in that spot is actually a very nice play.
Yeah, I think she's probably making it just to score some points. It's a very good reason to make that play, but it has a very nice side effect of stopping Mike from playing his bingo. So a good play by Barb, sort of averting disaster there.
Yeah, it looks like for the second game in a row, this one looks like it's probably going to come down to the end. It's going to be very difficult on this board for Barb to convert that blank into a bingo. Still waiting for the whereabouts of the unseen O, which has just made its way to Barb's rack, but it is still a very difficult it's got to be a 7-letter word with the O in the fifth spot. Even with a blank, that is not easy. Especially when you've drawn the J and the P like she just had. So, it looks like we're going to be, that nobody's going to bingo for the rest of this game, and it looks like we're going to be set up for a very interesting endgame.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be very tightly fought. Although at this point, I feel like Barb's in the driver's seat just with the fact that she currently has the lead. She has the blank and she has the J. I think the J is very potent here, either making okay or maybe it's hard for me to pronounce this. Either making the word okay as a 2-letter word or hooking K to make okay.
Yeah, she's got the O, which plays very nicely in both spots, and this is a board where it is just very hard to score right now. No front hooks to low, like, playing want there, has really put Barb in a very good spot. And so if you're Mike, again, what do you do here? Like, how are you going to win this game? Are you going to win this game by bingoing with your balanced rack, or are you going to win this game by outscoring your opponent? And the answer to that kind of that's a very nice play there of Flo and Obi.
Yeah, Quackle actually really likes that one just from a static perspective. Keeps a good leave while also keeping the scoring up. It turns out that he didn't really have to make a choice between those two options. He could do both at the same time as long as he found that play. So a nice idea by Mike. The only downside is even if he does draw a bingo as he has, it's really hard to put it on this board.
Yeah, and that's something you'll sometimes see from from players of this rating level. It's it's a very underrated skill, what I call board preparation, making sure that that the board is amenable, when you have bingo tiles, making sure that when you're fishing, that you have ample spots to bingo when you hit it. So, and I think Mike is kind of in that situation right now where he's got the the trailer retrial, et cetera rack, but on this board, not only is it probably not going to go down, but it's very hard to envision a scenario in which anything that Barb plays will help you to bingo.
Yeah. Even if Barb is not fully focused on bingo defense, she doesn't really have to be, just because the board is doing it on its own. And since most of her natural plays involve playing the J next to the K, that's not going to open up anything for Mike to work with. It's a very straightforward play here, scoring 29 points, not giving up any additional bingo spots. I think that this is a good idea by Barb, just to sort of bide her time and not go crazy opening the board. It would be easy to do that in her shoes because she does have the blank. She might be thinking, I want to bingo myself, but she doesn't really need to do that in this situation.
Exactly, and that's that's where you can sometimes get yourself into trouble by getting a little too greedy. Just recognize that, look, after I play JO, the board is essentially dead for bingos. I'm ahead by 21, and I have the other blank. JO also leaves one tile in the bag, which is very nice. So, if my opponent wants to open and fish for the blank, then I'm happy to bingo out and pile on spread. So, tough spot here for Mike, trying to figure out if he has a way to to potentially steal this one.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a dire situation for Mike here because there's only one tile in the bag. So if he does want a bingo, he'll have to fish off one and hope for a good draw. But there's not really anywhere to do that on this board. He could play EF on top of Flo.
That's what I'm seeing. I hope to draw the blank or the E.
But that's always going to get blocked. I mean, Barb's been playing for a long time, 2 decades in the tournament scene. She's fully aware of the dangers of a triple line in the end game. So actually, it would be worse for Mike because she would just bingo out in a situation like that. We see that she's got impaled set up on her rack. So I think Mike would have to be more focused on trying to outscore in the end game. And with this board, it just doesn't seem feasible.
And on any board, it's really hard to outscore when you got 7 singles over there.
Right, and your opponent's got the blank for extra flexibility. Well, he doesn't know that, but it's
right. So that's what I'm wondering. If you have determined that you need the blank to be in the bag. Which again, given Barbara's last, 4 or 5 plays, it could be. Fave, QI, JO, they don't necessarily mean, I'm sitting on a blank. You play the EF off of flow, you hope to draw the blank. If you draw the E, I'm trying to see if there's something in there with ADIMPR blank that she would bingo out back. But that's what makes this so tough. To use the old Winston Churchill quote to kind of steal that, spread is the worst tiebreaker in Scrabble except for all the others. I think EF is basically the only way I see that he can win the game. But it turns out that, if he had played it, then he ends up losing by about 150. So he decided to play TAI. Again, just going to try to do what he can to outscore. Unfortunately for him, the tile in the bag was the third R. So it looks like Barbara will. Looks like this is pretty safe for her.
Yeah, I think this is probably Barb's game here. Mike, I think, did make a good play there of tie. Try to give a little bit of a lifeline, like if he draws a vowel and then Barb messes up and gives him an out play. There were still definitely ways he could win the game after tie. It might involve mistakes from his opponent, but sometimes in these really difficult scenarios, you just have to hope that your opponent messes up. That has to be part of your calculus is, I need my opponent to mess up. But unfortunately, since he drew a third R, even if Barb does mess up or play an imperfect endgame, there's no way that Mike can go out next turn. It might even be hard for him to go out in the next 2 turns. So it's going to be really hard for him to outscore Barb from this point forward.
Yeah, TAI was a very nice play. First off, the knowledge of the Collins 3 first off, as well as, seeing the spot for it. 22 was probably about as good as he was going to do on this board. Again, I tend to default to looking for the bingo, and most of the winning scenarios here, I think, are going to involve bingoing out. If he plays EF and Barbara doesn't have a bingo, it's not the easiest thing to do. With those tiles to block effectively. But yeah, bad luck that the R was in the bag. I think tie. I don't know if tie ever gives him a chance to win under perfect endgames. So Quackle will probably give it a 0% chance of winning. But like you said, I think it prolongs the game. It prolongs the game, and it gives your opponent a chance to potentially make a mistake and set you up.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just have to hope for a lot of things to go right, including some things that are not in your control, such as your opponent making the wrong plays and things like that. But as we said, Barb's in a pretty safe spot here, even though she's down by 1 in this end game with the M and the P and the blank. She does have just enough scoring flexibility to make this one pretty safe. Looking at Quackle's suggested plays here, there's really not a whole lot of easy scoring plays that she can make. The highest scoring play that she can make would require to turn YU into AYU. That's kind of a tough spot to find if you're a new Collins player. She is finding the Collins only 2-letter word JA, so both players getting in on the action here with those very helpful 2-letter words. And she's scoring quite decently, taking advantage of the J and the K.
Yeah, and I think it illustrates, just the importance of knowing the Collins twos and how often they come up. Just looking at this board, we have a JA on it, we have a YU on it, we have a DI on it. There was an OB on it at one point. So, that's one of the when you play Collins is a lot more opportunities for high scoring overlaps like we've seen in this game.
Yep, and looks like Mike actually does have kind of a creative little play here that will score 18 points, sort of continue to give him life in this game. But it's a really tough spot. He kind of partially has it set up, but it's through the U of nausea and the E of tearing.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, I was assuming he's just going to play the R there, which is what I saw. Get rid of one of those 3 R's for 15. But yeah, ruler through the U of nausea and the E of tearing. That would have been outstanding.
And we see Mike only still down by 1 here, so it's still a tight end game. There's still room for error here, so Mike's going to have to keep fighting as long as this game keeps going on.
Yeah, you never know what might happen. Sometimes if he sees ruler this turn, that would be incredibly impressive. Looks like Barb is going to get rid of her blank here. Yeah, playing Pima, hooking to make a jar. Again, if she unwittingly, puts the wrong tile out there for him to go out, this could have been a different story. But yeah, that's a very safe play and a way to score pretty well on a very closed up board.
Yeah, nice play by her, recognizing that jar gave her a nice spot to do some scoring. So it's always good to sort of reevaluate your mental map of the board to change as hooks come and go. And she did that very well there by recognizing the jar hook.
So, Mike, in addition to that insane find of ruler, what does he have here?
It looks like he's challenging. I think this is a fair challenge here.
Absolutely, and especially again when you're only losing 5 points, that's not going to impact your spread too much. So, so it looks like he is just going to challenge Pima. And yeah, in a situation where you're not 100% sure, I think if it comes off, then Barbara still wins, but it's going to be very close. So
yeah, again,
challenge there if you're not 100% sure.
Yeah, if you think it gives you a chance to win, you do it. Because if that word is good, it scores way too many points for you to ever come back. It was 24 points before the extra 5 points. Now a 29-point play, which is really good on this board. It's really hard to score that many points on this board. I'm curious to see if Mike recognizes that he can turn the word Joe, J-O, into J-O-R. He's already shown some knowledge of the Collins 3, so he might know that one as well. I think his best play that's not ruler would be to play something like ERR, making Jor.
That is definitely his best play. I also saw that he can also dump the E and the L between the Zoo and the A to make Zooiel. Again, like the ruler play, that is not something I'm anticipating any normal human being seeing. So.
And it looks like neither player's clock is running, so if our producer is paying attention, I think we're supposed to note when the clock is not running.
That is true, yes. That is, there we go, see? We have spoken it into being. That is actually something that, as a player in a neighboring game, the rules say that you are allowed to point out. So
yeah, it's one of the few things that you're allowed to mention to another game in progress is clock stopped when it shouldn't be. So we see Mike playing Ryler. This is not a word, but it is a very reasonable attempt, and I wonder if Barb's even going to try to challenge this.
That is also one of the interesting things about Collins is that you don't get that free challenge on the outplay that you're used to in Owl. So, in a situation where you've won the game, do you want to risk kicking away, 5 spread points? And I can't tell. It looks like they're filling out paperwork, but she may just be going over the score here. So technically, if he was on hold for Ryler, his clock should be running. So the fact that the clock is neutralized might mean that she has accepted it. And indeed, they're shaking hands. So yeah, and he's telling her you blocked Fillory when you played Want. So.
Yeah, that was a real turning point, I think. Mike was sitting on good bingo letters. He had found his bingo. He was going to play there, and once that spot went away, it was really hard to open this board back up. So I think Mike did his best, but Barb really played this game well, especially in the second half, to keep her lead and get the win.
All right. Well, it sounds like we will be turning this around rather quickly. You may have seen Josh Sokol kind of pacing in the background behind Mike. He will be on the feature table for round 16 against Ben Schonbrun. So, very, very huge, perhaps even the biggest game of the first 19 rounds with the round robin here. So as they corner tiles, just a reminder to visit letsplayscrabble.com to learn more about competitive Scrabble. Again, if you're enjoying this stream and want to see more live Scrabble coverage, please like and subscribe. It looks like there are 100 and so people watching now, and not nearly as many liking. So, having worked in the SEO, the search field, those likes really are important to Google's algorithm in terms of what to serve. So, increasing the visibility of letsplayscrabble.com specifically, as well as Scrabble in general, would really appreciate a like and subscribe from everybody watching.
Yep,
So
I
yeah,
just
big.
have to echo all that. Make sure you like, and every subsequent stream, don't forget to hit that like button. You have to keep doing it over and over. No excuses.
And yeah, I mean, this is kind of the game that we can get right into it because what more is there to say? Ben Schonbrun, Josh Sokol, two of the best players on the planet. They'll almost certainly be playing each other again later on in this tournament. Playing each other in the round robin in a huge game.
Yeah, this should be a good one. These players barely need an introduction. If you've been watching the Let's Play Scrabble streams in the past, you have seen them both many times. You've been amazed by the quality of their play many times. Hopefully, we're amazed again because these players are among some of the best.
I think we're almost ready. Just have to. They were squaring the tiles when we went away, so just got to make sure that they have all their stuff out of there and that Ben and Josh are situated.
So we know that Ben did lose a game. Not sure if he's lost any more since then, but as of a couple rounds ago, there were no undefeated players. But I think even if Ben lost a couple in a row, he's probably still at the top of the standings. And we might be able to cut over quickly to take a quick look at those standings as we get
Yes,
players
I was going to
situated.
say I don't know if we have them on the screen, but I have them in another tab here. No, it looks like we'll have them on the screen shortly. There they are. See, our producer on top of it. So Ben shook off that loss in round 13. 14-1, 2 games ahead of Tim and Daniel. Does not have the spread on Tim. Also does not have the spread on Josh Castellano, who is 3 games back, along with Matthew O'Connor. So yeah, and then again, Josh 9-6. So he's got the spread. He's got the highest spread in the division. He's halfway there. Just needs to get the record to be the best in the division.
Yeah, that spread of plus 1,200 with a 9-6 record. He's only won 3 more games than he's lost. That is insane. That indicates that in the games that he's winning, he is blowing out his competition. So Sokol is not maybe that hot on the win-loss record, but is really hot on the scoreboard.
But it also helps a lot when you go into these games with a mediocre record and a good spread, because you don't have to worry so much about piling on the spread. You can just focus on getting the win, and if you have to win ugly, maybe win by 20-25, like you don't have to have in the back of your mind, oh, I need to improve my spread. The spread's already there. It's just a matter of getting the record in line.
Yep, and we're seeing the recent results for Ben and Josh. Ben winning 4 of his last 5. That one loss to Castellano being his only loss of the day. Josh 3-2 in his last 5, but actually an upset loss to Judy Cole, one of the lower-rated players in the division. So a nice job, Judy, to knock off a really high-scoring, fearsome player in Josh Sokol.
Yeah, shouts to Judy, 19th seed out of 20, beating Josh Sokol. And meanwhile, Ben didn't exactly roll over. Terry following up from her loss to Juju, only lost to Ben by 18, and Sean also gave him a very good game. So this will be very interesting, and I think we're ready to go.
I've just been noting over all the commentary that I've been doing over these past couple of years. I feel like the prevalence of handshakes is going up. I wonder if that's becoming a thing in streamed games. Like
Yeah, I think it might be it's a stream game thing. I don't know if people are getting the instructions. I actually usually don't shake hands. I'll say, like, let's have a good game or something like that, but I usually don't shake hands. But it's nice for us on the stream to know that that they're ready to go.
So Ben with some very promising letters early, and then he turned over the B and the I, which didn't really go with the E, the G, and the H and the blank. But still probably feeling pretty good that he drew a blank so early. It's just he's going to have to wait a turn here to actually get a bingo down.
Yeah, and I expect him to maybe take a little bit of time here to just confirm that that there is no bingo here. But the play of hub certainly seems like a pretty standard play here. A little bit more defensive going with bug. I can get behind that.
Yeah, I think with the blank IE, I feel like the B might be slightly better bingo tile, but it's really splitting hairs at this point, and I think this is a perfectly good play. We know he did not have a bingo. We also know he didn't have a 5-letter word that was worth playing. So just a good idea to play short and keep as good letters as he could.
And unfortunately, the toxic EII draw. And look at this. Oh, okay, it's not Ord.
Ben didn't even flinch.
I know.
He was just going to challenge that off, but nice idea by Josh to play Sandbugger. Sandbug isn't even good by itself, so of course Sandbugger wouldn't be a word, but creative thinking.
Grandes as well. He's given the Fulsa show here early on, but going for the standard ganders.
Yeah, he has a few options here. He can play gardens, ganders, dangers. It's kind of splitting hairs on what the difference is between those plays. I think Josh's thought here is he's just going to pick one and play it and not spend too much time thinking about it. And we see he does go with ganders.
And now does Ben have a play that will get him out of exchanging here? I tend to think not, although he does have Heine, and sure enough, as soon as I see it on the on Quackle, he sees it and has put it on the board. So very nice job to get out of this 3I 2E rack without needing to exchange.
Yeah, definitely when you draw the letters that look that bad and you've only got the one consonant, exchange is the first thing that you think of. But good presence of mind by Ben to not get too down in the dumps over the bad draw. Keep looking for good plays that you can make. And Heine may be the only playable word. Everything else that I would want to do would be an exchange on that rack.
So somewhat improbably, after Ben's play of Heine, Josh is also struggling with the H and a bunch of vowels. Has the very nice column for HUIA in a few places.
Yeah, I think this might be a test of Josh's knowledge of the Collins 4s. Not to put him on blast too much, but on previous streamed games, he has seen Collins 4-letter words and then not played them due to being unsure. That's just kind of how it goes when you're immediately thrust into a Collins world where you have to play against really good players all the time. Is not having the confidence in your word knowledge that some of these other players have. So we'll see if he comes up with something like Huia. We're not sure how to pronounce that one. It's kind of unpronounceable, but he does have it in a few spots, and it does seem like it's his best play if he spots it.
Has the H in hand? Is he gonna? Oh, okay. So huge, I assume. Which is a nice setup for the R on his rack.
Yeah, this is actually a good idea, which I had not seen. He didn't desperately need that R hook because there's spots around Heine that he can play. Also, the R went under the U of bugs if he had a bingo in that spot. But it can't hurt to put this one out a little bit in space where it's not going to get blocked as easily. So this is actually a good idea by Josh to free up a little bit more of the board on the bottom.
So now Ben with options to bingo here.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a bingo from him. He's got some pretty straightforward ones playing on top of Heine. He's really got his choice. There's a couple bingos here that end with OR or ON. He also has Isotron making Heinies. So he does have a decision to make of where he wants to put this bingo, how he wants to see this board develop. But I think rest assured we're going to see a bingo from him.
So yeah, another one of those. And knowing Ben, he probably will not take too long on this decision.
There is a little bit of a ramification here. Ben can't know it. We just know it from our omniscient position in the commentary booth. But if Ben floats an R out in space, Josh will get Retiarii, which is
unfortunately he's going to play monitor, so Josh is probably going to be a little tilted when he sees that R go down.
I think it's actually the I he needs. Those letters are so hard to look at that I think I got that wrong. But R-A-T.
Yes, he needed the I, but one spot down.
So clock is hit. We assume the blank is an M for monitor. Good find by Ben. He had a lot of bingos available there, so we were hoping he would find something, and he does. And yep, we get the blank designation slip cam, another innovation of Let's Play Scrabble, which is so useful for us up here.
That is a very cool innovation. Very cool innovation that helps us all out.
So in the absence of Retiarii, Josh does not have a playable bingo here. I'm curious to see if he's going to play long or short here. Is he going to keep it up, trying to get a bingo down? The board, all of a sudden, after monitor, is a lot less friendly to 7-letter words. All those spots around Heine are just really hard to hit now. And so unless you're ending with a vowel to make bugs, or you hit huger, which I guess he's got 2 R's.
Anything with an R, is going to play off of huge. So that's why I kind of like the static leader of playing error through that RE up top, drawing into tire. Again, you have that's going to keep that MONI open up top. 15 is probably about as much as you're going to get on this rack. It looks like there's a place he can play area. Okay, so that's overlapping through the I in Heine, making GIARDE and her. And again, if it was anybody else, I would be like, oh, that's a really tough spot. But for Josh, it would not surprise me at all if he were to see that.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit easier to see because he does have Area just sitting on his rack as a 6, so he might already be aware of that word just as something he could play making huger, perhaps. So if he's already thinking about the word, it might come easier to him to play it through the eye of Heine. That would be a 29-point play. One downside of that is it does put the A one short or 4 tiles short of that triple letter and double letter combo. I think I got that wrong. Double letter and triple word combo. That feels like a really dangerous spot just because the X and the Z are still out. Something like Axite or Azons or Azoic could be problematic there. So I would be a little bit reluctant to play in that spot. I like your initial suggestion, Jason, of just playing error through the RE of monitor and continuing to go for bingo.
Yep, and that's what he's going to do. So yeah, Area was the best play staticky, but it also burns both of your R's for the huge hook. Basically blows up the rack, and I don't think for the 14 extra points, like you said, puts that A in a fairly dangerous position. So I think Error has to be the right play here. Now Ben has a few options. Can play favor to that R in error, also making oh ho. Or he can just blow up the rack entirely and play foviate underneath using that E in huge, making BA and UT using the letters in bugs.
Yeah, and we were actually just talking about the word fovea last game. It seems like it always comes in
It does
handy.
seem like it always comes up.
And so now we've got the related word foveate, which also feels like it comes up more often than it should, given its probability and the fact that it contains an F and a V. I guess it comes up because it contains an F and a V. It's often the right play. The downside of foveate in this specific situation is it does create a hot spot to the middle triple on the left, where it would be very easy for Josh to make a four-tile play that scores in the realm of 40 to 50 points, as long as he has some consonants that score well. And again, we see that he does not have consonants that score well. He actually is sitting on very nice bingo letters. And actually, based on Josh's last play of error, I think Ben can maybe assume that Josh did not have scoring letters. So maybe foveate is a little bit safer than it normally is. That could be a play here.
So yeah, as expected, every turn basically spot on. Basically I haven't seen anything that remotely looks like a mistake so far, and Ben has chosen favor.
Yeah, and I think for all our talk of foveate, I think favor is just a safer play. Keeping the two T's, you pause a little bit at that, but two T's I think together has some synergy. So it's really not the end of the world if you have to keep them together, especially if you're scoring 28 points on a board that's a little bit short on easy scoring spots.
And Josh has frisette from that F in favor setup on his rack. Obviously had Testier hooking to make heinies, so I think he's probably debating between those two internally right now.
Looks like he's going for Testier here. I actually haven't given this complete thought. One thing I'm thinking about is I'm a little bit afraid of that triple he's opening up. If Ben has a W or an F or maybe like a K or something, there's words that can hurt him there, whereas Frisette maybe felt a little bit safer from immediately giving back huge scoring plays.
Yeah, and it turns out I expect Ben to play Frit through that R in Testier fairly quickly. Haven't seen the candidate plays yet, but unless there is some bingo that I'm not seeing here, yeah, and he does indeed play Frit, which was his best play. So the good news is that for Josh is that he's found the other blank. The bad news is that he has found PQVY to go with it.
Yeah, this is a tough set of letters. Initial gut feeling would be here, like you want to exchange. These letters just simply cannot be played. But it does turn out that Josh does have a few plays that might be worth considering. He does have one of them already set up on his rack. That would just be to play Vly, either making FY on favor or BY make on bugs. It's a 1 point difference, but either of those plays I think would be playable.
Yeah, just trying to figure out which is better for the board if they're going to score exactly the same. Do you have a preference between the two?
I feel like holding the blank, I would want to play the one that disrupts the fewest amount of bingo lines. And so for me, that would be playing under favor. You keep the huger open, even though you don't have an R. You do have the blank, and there's still two R's to draw. You also keep that easy line for sevens under bugs open if you need it. Realistically, though, with the blank, Josh is probably mostly going to be looking at like the F and the T of Frit, but it's nice to have as many openings as possible when you do get a bingo down. Again, downsides of all these plays versus exchanging. His bingo is not going to happen next turn as long as he has that Q on his rack. At least it's very unlikely. He could draw the U and some other nice stuff to get a bingo down, but it's going to be a multi-turn process to get a bingo
Interesting, and that was the one that scored one more point. So I am a little bit surprised that he is playing it under the B in bugs. You were talking about that spot, being a potential for, maybe a 7 ending in E. Also, blunts the huge hook. Also, just an 8 ending in ATE, ANE, ITE, INE, IRE, ARE. Those were all playable there as well. So a little bit more of a defensive play again, given the blank. Perhaps that just speaks to to his pessimism maybe over having the Q, on a board that is not very Q friendly at this point.
Yeah, I think it might be just since he doesn't feel close to a bingo, there's no point in playing open. Also, he takes a 40-point lead with that play, so maybe some inclination towards openness that he would have if he was down by 40. He doesn't have that same inclination, so he's comfortable keeping the board relatively closed and sort of jumping with the blank when the opportunity arises. But it seems like he's not in a hurry to necessarily do that. Going over to Ben, way too many consonants here, but he does have options here if he just wants to play off the 2 M's. It feels strong here.
Yeah, and that's when you see a sequence like the Heine huge error, with both players, playing a lot of vowels, that's always something to keep in the back of your mind later in the game. Like I could end up being, a little bit consonant heavy. Not that any, they could have done anything about it. Like maybe that's a slight gives a slighter edge to foveate on the turn that Ben played favor. I still tend to agree that favor is probably the correct play. So yeah, Ben is going to play Met between monitor and favor.
Yeah, so using his 1 vowel, I think that it's reasonable to try to score some points here. He does score 29, a very nice score. I do see it pointed out in chat that a very rare play of MMM was possible on that turn. It was clearly not the best play. Ben would never do that.
Yeah, if he had wanted, I'm a little surprised he did not go with the MM on top of monitor there. Of course, that may be influenced by the fact that we know that Josh has had Joy ready to go there, and as it turns out, Met will give him 3 more points for Joy.
Yeah, and I think a good play by Josh there. We didn't get any time to analyze that one, but it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's got to be.
And now Ben is still in a little bit of a weird scenario. He's got duplicate S's and duplicate O's. And I was doing a quick scan of the board to see if there's any good scoring plays available. And I really didn't see any. So I checked Quackle, also confirming that there's really not a whole lot to do for Ben on this turn. Maybe something like Vroom from the V of Lie feels pretty good here. What do you think, Jason?
That looks best to me. This is a turn where a lot of Quackle static plays are going to be stuff like Moe's making nefs, but this is not a turn where I want to be scoring 18 and playing an S and telegraphing that other S. I am one who kind of takes a less dim view of duplicate S's, sometimes to my detriment. But I think Vroom down from that V kind of has to be the play. There is another Vroom. Okay, that's Vroom's. Okay, so that's just Vroom's in the same spot, which again is better statically because your leave of SC is going to be better than your leave of CSS, but again, not worth the 2 extra points there. So yeah, really tough spot for Ben here, made worse by the fact that Josh has drawn the U to go with his Q, and we'll probably be making that apparent fairly shortly.
Yeah, and also Ben is quite a bit behind at this point. This is an interesting idea here.
Yeah, he is going to dump the S for just 1 more point. Again, that speaking to the consonant heaviness of the unseen pool, which is actually not that consonant heavy at this point. Yeah, thoughts on orcs here.
So first thought is now that he's put the S on the board, he's probably committed to just
Yeah,
playing
it's,
it
you
with
can't
the S.
exactly pick it up now. Yeah, I prefer Orc if he's going to do that, but
Yeah,
it's,
I think he must view his bingo chances as significantly better getting rid of the two S's. But the downside of playing orcs is now you're setting up an easy S lane for sevens, but you've telegraphed the S. So
right.
even though Josh is just going to play his bingo. He doesn't really have to think too hard about it. But in
Right.
another situation where Josh does not have a bingo, he would be blocking that spot. So it's really not that productive to let your opponent know you have an S while setting up an S spot.
And then did he have? I was trying to see if he had anything through that T, or if he was if that Orcs play just kind of made Josh's turn easy for him.
Yeah, I think that bailed him out a little bit. He did not have a good. He did not have another bingo. He didn't have anything good through the T. Actually, Orcs gave him opaque as well as plaques, so he had
Oh,
his
wow.
choice of plays after Orcs, but didn't really have anything super good before that play. So that I think that one went. This exchange went poorly for Ben. Really, no fault of his own, but that was not how we wanted to see that develop.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go with mood.
I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah.
This keeps the board open a little bit, creates some more bingo lines where there hadn't been before. So at this score, he's still down. He's down 247 to 326. He's down by bingo plus half of another bingo after Josh's next play. He needs to make sure that this board stays amenable to drawing bingos and playing them.
Yeah, this is the kind of situation where I kind of tend to maybe be a little bit fish happier than I should be. In a situation like this, you really just need to kind of keep scoring. Even if it sacrifices your leave, you have to make sure that you get the next bingo down, and that you're within hailing distance when you do. So again, in a situation like that, really didn't come into play. That was, mood was fairly clear. Nice job by Ben, seeing that right away. Preserving his time. And yeah, Josh has a post bingo draw that will kind of delay him in his effort to put this game away.
Yeah, not great letters here, but he did. I think he had set up on his rack the high probability but rarely played 6-letter word Adine, Aedine. That is a word that does not take an S, so it's really not a word that a lot of players would study on purpose. It's really not that useful, but here it actually might have some utility. He can play it under plaques, making EA and OS for a decent score of 21 points. That's about as good as he's going to do on this board, and it does partially block the new lanes that were created under mood. It gives back maybe a minor bingo line if you have exactly the right overlaps, but I think there's a lot of upside to a play like that.
Totally agree. You're taking 6 tiles out of the bag. You're reducing the amount of turns that Ben will have to come back. 4 vowel 6s in both lexicons are quite useful. But yeah, don't try playing Adines. Just stick to aniseed. If you have Adines, does not take the S, which is why it was good to see that Josh had it set up on his rack. I would expect Josh to know most of the 4 vowel 6s in Collins, but the fact that he hasn't put it down when it looks to me like a pretty clear top play makes me wonder if just there's that lingering doubt in his mind about whether it's good or not.
Yeah, it's easy to doubt words like that you don't see very often. You'll only know them from studying them. You don't get that reinforcement of playing them over the board, which I think is very helpful sometimes. Once you see a word on the board, you tend not to forget it, whereas studied words, I'm forgetting those all the time. So Josh he's got aid set up. He might be thinking about playing aid under mood. That's actually a better scoring play than Adine, which we had discussed, but I think this has too many upsides, and he does get it on the board. So nice word knowledge on display from Josh, and also I think a sound strategic play.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very nice play. And now I would expect to see. Yeah, I would expect to see. I was going to say I would expect to see Ben play down from that M, but it looks like the only option he has there is make, which would leave him 4 consonants. The play of Klong through that LO in Plax and Mood is also a good one. However, again, he has already telegraphed to Josh that he has the last S, and that's something that that Josh may be able to play through and kind of blunt there. So.
Yeah, that's kind of where the downside of telegraphing S comes in. Although I would say that a play like Klong here, even if Ben hadn't previously telegraphed an S, very clearly telegraphs an S. It's also worth noting before we move on to Josh's bingo that the word Kalong is also a word, Kalong, which I think would have been an improvement just from a scoring perspective. But the end result is going to be the same, that Josh's bingo is still going to play, and that's going to put him really far ahead in this game.
Yeah, Kalong, I think if you know it, you know it's a lot better, and you're going to play it. But good board vision from Ben there to play Klong. Yeah, just bad luck that Josh had a rack which on its face looks pretty ugly, but with the T, it's pretty nice. So.
Yeah, nicely done. And we see Ben has the Z. Normally you're happy to have the Z, but I think what Ben would have wanted here is to hit a bingo and then hit a big Z play, have them happen separately. That maybe still could happen here, but he doesn't have, I shouldn't say that. He could play something like Zen next to Diatribe.
I just saw that play, and I think you have to. I think that's got to be the play, right?
Yeah, that feels really strong to, again, set up an S. It's really far away from the other S hook on Klong. It's, very opposite parts of the board. And while the remaining tiles we can see in the top left are just really ugly looking, even if you keep something like CAST, there's an outside shot that you'll draw a bingo that plays. At this point, it feels like that's not going to be enough, but maybe it's Ben's best chance here.
Yeah, and also, also has the added benefit of leaving one in the bag, and so Ben will make what I consider to be the star play here of Zen.
Yeah, he hits his clock. Nice idea here to sort of give himself an outside chance to at least cut some spread a little bit with a bingo if he draws it.
And then this will be interesting for Josh as we see the unseen pool to him. Just checking to see what Ben could have. Oh, I'm sorry. This is looking at the wrong stuff. Looks like no 7s or 8s here. So Josh should be fairly safe in playing wax off of Zen.
Yeah, and I think even if there is a 7 or 8, it could be that that's just his best play anyway. Right. He has to sacrifice a lot to block Klong.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Even if you see a potential 7 hooking Klong with an S first, second, or third, I think you probably still play wax. But 10.5 minutes, Josh is probably going to do some due diligence here and just confirm, okay, what are the bingos that Ben can have here? Does he have anything through that G in Klong? Does he have anything through that N in Zen? Which is pretty much, that and the S hooks, the only bingo lines on the board at this point. So.
Yeah, and Josh is one of the best players at iterating through a remaining bag and sort of calculating out all the possibilities. He could do that here. He maybe spent a little bit of time on it, but it's probably not worth the mental energy expenditure to do that in a game that you're going to win. It's easy enough to just play the intuitive play like wax And if you miscalculated by your intuition, it's still going to be a win for you at the end of the day.
So as both players, in contention and with eyes on winning this thing, every game has an end game, and so we'll see if both of these players do their best job in maximizing their spread here. Looks like Ben is going to play WAST, trying to see what if he is threatening an out with ACU here. He played that very fast, so I feel like he must be.
Yeah, I'm actually not seeing it off the top of my head. I've become in my commentary duties very reliant on Quackle to tell me what's going on. But just on a quick scan, I'm not seeing
did they add, but did they add guac as short for guacamole? Is that one in yet?
Yes, they did. Good spot, Jason. It's hard to find those new words, but yeah, maybe he's thinking guac.
I was a little surprised he played that as fast as he did as well, but
yeah, he might be thinking he wants this game over with. Last game of the day.
Last game of the day, I think I think sometimes you tend to play the end game a little bit quicker.
So overall, I think a really well played game from Josh's end. Actually, also a really well played game from Ben, other than possibly Orcs. It feels like a little bit of a turning point where he might have been able to do something like Vroom and not telegraph the S. It kind of would have the side effect of not giving up plaques, which he couldn't know. Although now I'm looking at it, Vroom actually gives up opaquely. So maybe he was doomed there anyway. But just maybe a minor mistake. But I think overall, both players played really well this game.
Oh, absolutely. Which, I mean, you would expect that from these two. But yeah, certainly got what we came for. Right from the start with Josh putting that phony 10 on the board. And just the fact that he saw it was very impressive. But yeah, just kind of looking at everything again. Met I kind of liked in that spot instead of Met given the pool. But but that's minor stuff. And when your opponent draws into an I and then hits diatribe like through the D, like again, it's a 28 game tournament, and like we said about Dan Blake in round 13, like you're going to have games like these, and especially when you're playing a player of Josh's caliber.
Yeah, and I think we're doing a round robin in this tournament, but eventually the round robin will come to an end, and probably for the last several games of the tournament, Ben's going to be facing basically a nonstop parade of very high level players. So I mean that it's a really good idea to rack up wins in the round robin, and Ben is doing that. He's sitting at 14-1. He'll be at 14-2 after this one. We're getting word from our producer that there will be 3 more games of round robin before they enter some other pairing mechanism. Still really good shape for Ben to get all these wins when he's able to, and give himself a little bit of a buffer once the going gets a bit tougher in the last third of this tournament.
Yeah, and like we were saying about Dan in round 13 after that rough game, if you'd given Dan Blake 11-2 after 13 rounds, he would have jumped at it with both hands, and same with Ben, 14-2 after 16. Can't be too disappointed with that. Obviously, big game here. It would have been nice if you could have maintained your 2-game lead on the field, but just wasn't to be.
Yeah, and I wonder if Ben wishes that this tournament was a bit shorter. Like maybe, I know Let's Play Scrabble runs some 15-game tournaments. If only this one had been a 15-game tournament, he'd be winning his prize money and going home. Instead, he has to duke it out for a couple more days trying to get his share of that prize money.
That's the thing about tournaments like Nationals and this one. I remember when this was a 24-game tournament. And by the way, hell of a job by Josh here to spot guac and then block it basically the only way that he can by playing non there.
Yeah, and actually Josh does have an outplay here. It's kind of obscure. He has pollan, seems like a misspelling of pollen, through the A of error. But if your Collins knowledge isn't that deep at this point, it's hard to play.
That's AEDINE you probably would have come across in your vowel dumps. POLLAN. Unless that S hooks for a bingo is probably not one that you're going to see.
So I think Josh here is just trying to figure out the end game. This would be kind of a bad play if Ben does have another outplay, but it's a really good play if Guac is truly Ben's only outplay. So that's what Josh is thinking about now. This play,
Pollen is the best play regardless.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, when you don't see or don't know pollen, non is very, very clever.
Yeah, and I can actually confirm here that Ben does not have another outplay. So Josh made the correct decision there, even though he missed Pollan. Looks like Ben's best play here is to play Act on top of Monitor. Not very exciting or luminary, but is his best play.
Yeah, I was trying to see how he can, you do have to be a little bit careful here that you don't accidentally C-stick yourself. Which is easy to do, again, if you're not careful. But it looks like he's got Act ready to go here.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Maybe does it work out better for him to play something like Awk to the K of Klongs and then, save the C for later? We just have to make sure he's not walking into some kind of...
Yes, because he's got Can, but then, once that gets blocked, I think he is C-stuck, but I have to look at the board again.
Yeah, and this is all kind of complicated stuff to ask of us. Game 8 of day 2 of the Albany tournament.
I was going to say for you, game 16. For you, game 16. So
very true. So we are seeing a question in chat. Any more games tonight? The well of hope is always full, but here. This sadly will be the last game of the day.
Last official game, anyway.
Yep, I know after hours games are going to be continuing. At least we're not officially streaming those, or if we are, I'm not involved. Good play
this
here
was
by
Ben. Low-key, very good endgame here with Ben blocking the outplay that I did not see of PELL. So you have Josh blocking Ben's outplay, and then Ben reacting by blocking Josh's outplay. Act is blockable, but I'm sure that he has another CA play somewhere on this board. It's not coming to me right away, but
I feel like
it's too bad this wasn't Vac the Vac off of V of favor. So very, very clever play by Ben here. Again, that probably didn't show up statically, but I think if you run championship player, I think that's going to say that that is Ben's best endgame.
I will say that it is a little bit hard to do commentary when players draw out the end game this much in a game where it doesn't matter too much, but you can't fault players for trying to get every last point of spread. We're not going to hold them accountable for that. It just, you run out of stuff to say at a certain point.
Especially on round 16 of doing 2 days worth of this. So Josh plays clip, and then Vac is actually 1 point worse than Act, but still. Very impressive end game from both players, and we expect nothing less. Even in kind of a blowout, a bit of a blowout. A game that kind of got away from Ben in the middle there. A very beautiful play of UT there, blocking what had to be Josh's only out, while also preserving the out for himself and making sure that he didn't get C-stuck.
Yeah, I think testament to Ben's willpower here that game 8 of the day, a game that he lost by a lot, he was still willing to figure out the end game and do it quite well. So kudos to Ben for, I think, a really well played game, but I think Josh, really no quibbles on that one. He played it pretty much perfectly, as you expect from a former national champion.
All right. Well, I think that will do it for the afternoon of day 2 of Albany New Year's. 16 rounds in the book, 12 more to go. I will be with you tomorrow morning. I am not sure who with yet. So, like I said, double whammy for the audience that they don't get you, but yet they are stuck with me. Yeah, just a couple more announcements before we let everybody get on their way. Again, many thanks to NASPA Games for sponsoring this tournament, for Bob Lynn for all his generous donations. Again, let's play Scrabble.com. We will be back with you tomorrow morning. Again, I will be here. I'm not sure who with. Charles, thank you for being such a great co-commentator. And for doing this my first time, you certainly did a great job of easing me into it, and enjoy some very well-deserved rest from doing 16 games worth of quackling and commentating, and have a really happy New Year.
Yep, same to you, Jason. It was nice to have you on stream for your first ever commentating journey. We hope to see many more. We're getting word from our production crew that you will be joined by Will tomorrow morning. So,
all right. Well,
everybody loves Will Anderson. He should make your life pretty easy. It's very easy to commentate with him. And also, reminder that we start again at 9:30 Eastern time. That's 8:30 Central, 6:30 Pacific. That's way too early, but you gotta get up for it anyway if you're on the West Coast.
I know, like, what am I doing setting my alarm on New Year's Eve? Like, that was not what I had anticipated when I agreed to do this. But yeah, I had a blast doing these 4 games, and I can't wait. I can't wait to work with Will both tomorrow morning and Wednesday morning.
Yep, so I think that'll do it for us here in the commentary booth. Again, this was the 2024-2025 Albany New Year's tournament presented by Let's Play Scrabble.com. I'm Charles Reinke, joined by first-timer Jason Idalski, who I think did a great job. And we should see you all bright and early, 9:30 Eastern time tomorrow for even more Scrabble.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks so much.